A quiet tavern turns tense. Hilda looks up in surprise. Hilda stands amidst blummiwesses.
The bearded man remarks that Hilda's oversized clothes fail to highlight her figure and adds that she has a very nice backside.
Hilda glares with pure irritation. Hilda explains that this man, the son of the local lord, has been relentlessly harassing her for a year since her mother passed away. She tells him she is busy, but he insists she stay because there are no other customers around. Hilda recalls how he frequently visits her workplace to openly propose to her. He tells everyone they are in a relationship, forcing Hilda to shout that it simply isn't true. He often touches her thighs under the guise of coincidence, ignoring her dozens of refusals as he continues to annoy her. She laments that despite being a noble, he is 32 years old and 12 years her senior. His personality is persistent and irritating, and he is already in the stage where he suffers from hair loss. Hilda thinks the only solution is to ignore the nonsense while the man jumps up, demanding to know where she is going.
A sudden, sharp snap sounds as he grabs her arm, causing her to cry out in pain.
He warns her not to ignore him, asking if she thinks he will wait forever, while Hilda angrily asks who even requested that of him. She thinks that if he weren't the Lord's son, she would have smashed a jar over his head by now, then orders him to let her go before she loses her patience. The man bellows at her, asking what she thinks she will do if she doesn't stay still. Hilda cries out that he is hurting her and demands to be released, but he claims his proposal gives him the right to do anything he wants.
A dark resolve settles over the cavern.
Hilda shouts that it hurts as a sudden crack sounds in the air. He lets out a frantic shout as she delivers a devastating blow. A heavy thud echoes as he is sent reeling from the impact. Hilda stares in stunned silence. A heavy silence fills the tavern. The man groans in agony on the floor while Hilda marvels at how fast, powerful, and accurate her knee was.
Customers watch in horror as the noble groans in pain, clutching himself.
The witnesses are frozen in shock. Hilda realizes she attacked the Lord's son. She panics at the thought of having threatened the future of the Lord's lineage, certain that she is now a dead woman. A looming sense of dread takes over. The man on the ground trembles, asking Hilda who she thinks she is and why she is looking at him that way. Thinking she is going to die anyway, Hilda decides she has had enough and tells him to stop. The man recoils in pure terror.
Staring into his eyes, she vows to do what she must for a very good reason.
A final, agonizing scream rings out. The scene shifts to the Lord's castle. Hilda is locked behind iron bars. Hilda wonders why the Lord didn't have his son wear steel underwear to protect him. She worries that her only defense might lead to the death penalty, thinking that if the area was so important, it should have been protected better.
A guard orders Hilda Ruth to stand up while she contemplates whether it is better to die by biting her tongue or having her neck cut.
She is brought into the grand hall. Hilda braces herself for the judgment. She wonders what the Lord's son is doing there, as she expected him to be bedridden after her attack.
Hilda looks around the room, confused.
She spots a mysterious man standing next to the Lord and wonders who he is. A dark-haired man stands elegantly. Hilda notes his dark hair and black eyes that make him stand out even more. She thinks it is a good thing to have such a beautiful view right before she dies. Hilda reflects that while she has heard many compliments on her own looks, she has never seen a face quite like his. The dark-haired man maintains a calm expression. The Lord bellows Hilda Ruth's name. The Lord accuses Hilda of evil while she maintains a comical, stunned expression. Hilda struggles to find her words. A loud thud echoes as Hilda drops to her knees, desperately begging the Lord for help. The bearded man claims his inappropriate actions were merely an accident. Hilda is outraged by the son's excuse while the Lord and his son react with shock. Standing up defiantly, Hilda argues that her defense was as much of an accident as his harassment. Hilda points out the Lord's clear dislike of her as a potential daughter-in-law. The Lord is insulted by her words, but Hilda retorts that the feeling is mutual. Hilda insults the son's intelligence and looks, highlighting their vast age gap. Hilda points an accusing finger, demanding the man admit to his behavior. Hilda stands in the center of the grand hall, leveling accusations at her oppressors. The dark-haired man watches the scene. The Lord and his son look on with growing frustration. Hilda is suddenly struck by a realization. Hilda reflects on how her original plan to beg for mercy has shifted. An oppressive darkness underscores Hilda's confusion. The dark-haired man stifles a laugh. Hilda notices the man's hidden amusement. Hilda is bewildered that anyone could find her life-threatening situation funny. After hearing her defense, the dark-haired man concludes that the lady did nothing wrong. Hilda wonders why the handsome man is defending her and calling her lady. The man, Mr. Strauss, tells the Lord to stop denying his son's persistent harassment of a woman who rejects him. The Lord argues that violence is never justified, but Hilda shouts that she was the one attacked first. Hilda presents her bruised, discolored wrist as proof of the son's violent grip. Mr. Strauss notes the evidence of self-defense, though the Lord dismisses it as a tactic to reduce her sentence. The dark-haired man watches intently. The Lord expresses remorse for his son's condition, but Mr. Strauss suggests they drop the matter immediately. Mr. Strauss warns that pursuing the issue further means becoming an enemy of Duke Arpeggio. Strauss silences the Lord's rude comments, asserting that he is certain of her identity. Hilda remains utterly confused by the situation. The man glances back at Helva. With a graceful movement, the dark-haired man suddenly drops to one knee before Hilda. Hilda notes his incredible good looks. Smiling warmly, the man calls her princess and assures her there is no more need for worry. His sweet voice sends Hilda into a daze. Hilda is stunned by the title. Hilda is frozen in total disbelief. A romantic atmosphere surrounds the pair. Narration introduces Lucia Arpeggio, a master of mana from a top noble lineage.
The House Arpeggio is one of only 4 great ducal families in the Empire.
Lucia valued beauty above all else.
A father rages at Lucia for ruining their chance at the throne by rejecting the crown prince's proposal.
He yells about her reputation. Lucia calmly drinks tea, stating she doesn't care about the opinions of peons or society rumors. The man is incredulous that she would reject a prince simply because he wasn't handsome enough.
Lucia suggests her father marry the prince himself if he likes the position so much, leaving him sputtering in rage.
Ignoring her wishes, the Duke and the imperial family pushed the marriage forward anyway. Shouts echo through the castle as guards realize Lady Lucia has run away.
The truth was that Lucia didn't flee alone. She eloped with her gardener.
Narration notes the gardener was a comher.
He was an exceptionally handsome man. After her escape, Logan visits Hilda's house.
Looking at a photo, Hilda begins questioning.
Sitting together, Hilda confirms her family history. Hilda reflects on her father's weak state. Flashbacks show her father's illness and death.
Hilda recalls her mother praising her father.
Hilda focuses on the important matters at hand.
Hilda asks if she is the Duke's granddaughter.
The realization of her identity is staggering.
Hilda is ecstatic about her noble status.
She imagines herself as a noble lady. Logan prepares to continue the conversation. Logan asks for her belief in him. Logan asks about her mother's magical prowess. Hilda clarifies her mother valued beauty most. Logan formally introduces himself to the bra.
Hilda addresses him as Viscount Strauss.
Hilda expresses gratitude for his help yesterday.
Hilda questions his incredible timing during rescue. Logan reveals he has been watching her. Logan states his monitoring began before her arrest. Logan notes he watched her before Lucia died. Hilda becomes wary of his persistent surveillance. Logan explains the Duke located Lucia years ago. Logan describes Lucius' rejection of the Duke. Hilda suggests a political marriage caused rejection. Logan explains Lucia sought to avoid discrimination. Hilda considers the benefits of being noble. Logan details his orders to monitor her.
Hilda questions the lack of earlier support.
Hilda asks why he finally intervened Tao. Logan states the Duke wants a meeting. Hilda is shocked by the sudden request. Logan explains why he disregarded Lucia's wishes. Logan asks if she truly wants nobility. Hilda finds the opportunity impossible to reject. Logan warns of noble life's hidden difficulties. He warns that other nobles will dislike her.
Hilda insists on experiencing the life herself.
Logan warns of bullying and life-threatening danger. Hilda claims knowledge while Logan remains thoughtful. Hilda wonders why he is acting angry.
A dark resolve settles over Hilda.
Hilda reflects on her desire for authority.
Hilda declares her resolve to claim power.
Logan remains silent after her firm declaration. Logan sighs and acknowledges her firm point. Logan reveals her possible inherited magical talent. Hilda considers the possibility that inheriting her mother's talent would secure her place within the Arpeggio family. The dark-haired man cautions that without that talent, the Duke's protection and his own assistance will likely vanish.
Clenching her skirts, Hilda laments that the man across from her seems to lack basic humanity, caring only for political interests.
Hilda decides that if she lacks mana, she will simply return to her humble home time. Looking down at her hands, she ponders what her future might hold if she truly possesses magical ability. A vision of a bright, joyful future flickers through her mind. Hardening her expression, Hilda acknowledges that she currently has nothing left to lose. The man bluntly states that the Duke is not motivated by any sense of family affection. Surrounded by white lilies, Hilda stands with a determined and defiant expression. A map reveals the vast distance to the Hebron Duchy, a journey spanning at least 4 days by carriage. As the carriage rumbles through the dark forest, Logan remains focused on reaching their destination in record time. Despite the high-quality interior, Hilda struggles to find a comfortable position to rest during the long night. Dreams begin to haunt Hilda as she finally drifts into a restless slumber. Hilda wakes up frustrated, complaining about how uncomfortable the constant movement makes it to sleep. Dark circles under her eyes reflect her growing exhaustion and irritation. She directs her internal frustration toward Logan, blaming his presence for her lack of comfort. Glaring across the small space, Hilda finds it impossible to sleep while the man remains awake and composed, reading a book. Her irritation grows as she realizes he has no intention of sleeping at all. Hilda finally snaps and asks the man why he refuses to go to sleep. Logan calmly explains that staying awake for several days is not an issue for him and tells her not to worry. Clenching her fist, Hilda silently fumes that she isn't worried about him, but rather her own inability to rest in front of him. She sighs at the thought of snoring or talking in her sleep while a male stranger watches her from across the seat. The carriage continues its rapid journey under the moonlit sky. A soft sound escapes Hilda as she begins to succumb to her overwhelming tiredness.
Exhaustion wins out as Hilda falls into a deep sleep, snoring loudly. Logan remains perfectly still, listening to the various grunts and snores coming from the sleeping girl.
With a sudden startled gasp, Hilda jerks awake from her deep snugger.
Panicked and embarrassed, Hilda asks if she was snoring while Logan watches her with a flat, judging gaze.
When the man simply tells her it is all right, Hilda finds the vague response even more humiliating. She buries her face in her hands, unable to believe she fell asleep so disgracefully in front of him. Looking back on their first meeting at the castle, she feels she has already shown him every embarrassing behavior possible.
Hilda notes with annoyance that Logan has shown no flaws even after 2 days of travel, appearing perfectly groomed.
She stares intensely at his face, wondering how his skin can remain so clear and matte without washing. She continues her silent interrogation, baffled that his hair still looks perfectly styled and wavy. Hilda turns away in a huff, thinking the situation is completely unfair. Yawning, she resolves that she cannot allow herself to display any more unrefined behavior. Giving in to her fatigue, she decides to ignore Logan's presence and tries to go back to sleep. The scene shifts to the bustling streets of a grand, sunlit city. Well-dressed citizens enjoy the pleasant atmosphere of the prosperous urban center.
The carriage passes through a wide, clean plaza surrounded by elegant buildings.
Hilda nervously watches the passing scenery through the carriage window. Amazed by the scale of the city, she wonders how much restaurant workers earn here compared to her old life. She quickly shakes the thought away, reminding herself that as a ducal daughter, she shouldn't care about commoner wages. Logan notices her agitation and assures her that they still have quite a way to go before arriving. Hilda claims that noble women must stay elegant, but Logan retorts that she should start by fixing her messy hair.
An oppressive aura of embarrassment surrounds Hilda as she grumbles at his blunt observation.
Hilda recalls her mother's lesson that true elegance comes from within while she attempts to fix her appearance. Logan offers a rare, gentle smile as he finishes watching her adjust her appearance. Suddenly, Logan shifts closer and sits next to her, startling the girl. Blushing, Hilda is overwhelmed by his proximity and the pleasant, sweet scent he carries.
A wooden comb is presented with a flourish as a quick snap sounds.
Logan offers to comb Hilda's hair for her, but she retorts that it's too oily right now. Hilda admits that while she knows she needs it, the whole situation is incredibly embarrassing. A soft, smooth sound accompanies the comb as Logan insists there's no need for shame despite her grumbling.
Hilda feels a wave of nostalgia as she remembers her mother brushing her hair when she was small.
A soft, rhythmic sound continues as the comb glides gently through her long, golden hair. Hilda notes his experienced touch, leading Logan to remark that he has brushed a lot of hair before. Hilda spins around and demands to know whose hair he was brushing, but he tells her to stay still. Logan explains that he simply used to raise a domestic long-haired dog at his home in the past. Hilda asks if he's seriously comparing her to a dog, but he claims he's just answering her question. Staring forward, Hilda wonders if she should be offended by the comparison or relieved he's not a womanizer. The gentle, repeated sound of the brush continues as Logan works to tidy her messy appearance. Hilda looks radiant after her grooming. Hilda asks Viscount Strauss if he has any weaknesses or things he's bad at since he's so skilled. Logan claims he has no weaknesses, prompting Hilda to find him detestable while vowing to find his flaw. Hilda asks if she will finally get to meet her mother's siblings once they arrive at the duchy. Logan explains they're likely at the townhouse for the social season, but the Duke should be home. A steady clatter sounds as the carriage wheels turn and Hilda realizes she'll only meet the Duke today. Logan watches her closely and asks if she feels like meeting only the Duke is a shame. Hilda admits she feels conflicted, though she assures him there's no need to feel bad about it. Logan bluntly tells her that not meeting them is better since they won't treat her very well. Hilda questions why he's jumping to conclusions, jokingly suggesting they might all fall for her inherent cuteness. Hilda resolves not to feel down, despite the man's warnings about the reception she might face. She believes the Duke will welcome her, provided she has inherited her mother's great magical prowess. The carriage travels to the sea. Hilda gazes out at the beautiful scenery, amazed by the scale of the world outside her hometown.
The rhythmic clip-clop of hooves sounds as a grand palace stands before them.
A sharp click sounds as the door opens and Logan steps out onto the palace grounds. Logan stands by the carriage and extends his hand with formal grace to assist Hilda in disembarking. Hilda feels overwhelmed by the respectful treatment but resolves to act nonchalant to avoid looking like a bumpkin. A butler and two maids bow in greeting, announcing they have been awaiting the girl's arrival. Having people bow their heads to her feels strange and embarrassing to the formerly common girl. Logan asks if the Duke has arrived, and the butler confirms that he is currently in his study. The butler offers to escort them to the small drawing room, making Hilda wonder if there's a larger one. Hilda asks if being sent to the small room is a way of saying she doesn't deserve better yet. Hilda worries she was too overbearing after asking her sharp question to the staff. Hilda tells the staff she isn't unreasonable and would simply like to use the bathtub for a while.
The butler bows and assures her she can use the tub and they'll bring her new clothes.
A rhythmic sound of footsteps echoes as the group enters the grand and silent halls of the palace.
A sudden firm top sounds as Logan reaches out and catches Hilda by the wrist.
He holds her hand firmly, stopping her as they walk through the opulent hallway of the duchy. A soft rustling sound accompanies Logan as he leans in close to the startled girl. He tells her to inform him immediately if she feels the servants are being impolite or unreasonable.
Surprised by the sudden change in tone, Hilda asks him if he is actually worrying about her.
A moment of quiet tension fills the air between them as Hilda lets out a soft, surprised breath.
Hilda declares that she already knows the risks and won't just sit idly by if she is mistreated.
Logan's eye narrows with intensity as a single bead of sweat rolls down his face from the tension. Logan warns her not to resort to violence, prompting an insulted Hilda to ask if he thinks she's a thug. Hilda is baffled as Logan gives her a long, questioning look that seems to doubt her civility. An opulent bathroom awaits the guest.
Hilda is awestruck by the bathroom. Examining the perfumes, Hilda notes that one bottle costs 2 months' wages.
Relaxing in the water, she concludes that the warm bath indicates they lack ill intent.
A dull thump sounds as a laundry basket is moved.
Hilda soaks in a mountain of bubbles. Hilda relishes the noble life, vowing to secure her new status no matter what happens. A sudden, loud bang sounds as the door opens, causing Hilda to scream in surprise. The maid asks if she needs help, but a startled Hilda insists she's fine. The servant informs her she'll be right next door and to call if anything is needed. Hilda is baffled, wondering where the woman even came from and if there's another door.
Feeling anxious about another sudden appearance, Hilda resolves to finish her bath quickly and leave.
Hilda peeks cautiously from behind the divider. Hilda is shocked to find her clothes missing from the laundry basket. A look of dawning dread crosses her face. Seeing a massive, oversized gown, Hilda wonders if she is expected to wear it. The dress is far too large, trailing across the floor behind her.
A soft sliding sound follows as the fabric slips off her slender frame.
Frustrated, Hilda declares the dress unwearable and claims she would rather wear a potato sock. She realizes that if she lets go, the entire dress will fall to her ankles.
A sharp click sounds as the maid enters and asks what is wrong.
Hilda explains the clothes are too big and demands the return of her original outfit. The maid casually reveals that she already sent Hilda's old clothes to the laundry room.
Hilda panics and asks for her bag, but the maid confirms those clothes are also gone.
Hilda demands to know why she wasn't told and asks for smaller clothes, only to be interrupted. Suspicious, Hilda wonders if she's being sabotaged, finding it impossible that the duchy has no fitting clothes. Hilda grips the fabric, asking if the Duke ordered this, but the maid claims no dresses are available. The maid explains that because it's the social season, most gowns are at the townhouse. Hilda looks down, processing the blatant lack of hospitality. She decides to improvise with what she can find. The maid reveals her name as Dorothy as Hilda prepares to face the house in unusual attire. Hilda recognizes this as a test to see if she'll be intimidated into knowing her place. Looking sharp, Hilda dons a masculine noble's uniform with a confident expression.
She declares that she will not back down here.
Logan waits in a grand drawing room, focused on his book. Entering the room, Hilda asks if she kept him waiting, prompting him to look up. Logan begins to answer negatively, his voice trailing off as he sees her. A look of pure shock and bewilderment washes over Logan's face.
Surrounded by white roses, Hilda stands tall and radiant in the gentleman's suit.
Hilda offers a small, knowing smile.
Logan demands to know what this act of rebellion is, while Hilda blames the maid's laundry habits. Logan asks for clarification, wondering if her lack of clothes is really the reason for her outfit. Hilda remains silent, coolly adjusting her long hair. A quick tap sounds as Logan grabs her arm, offering to send for appropriate clothes immediately. Hilda dismisses him, arguing that her clothing won't determine whether the Duke accepts or rejects her. Logan stares at her, silenced by her logic and appearance. Logan lets out a heavy, weary sigh. Hilda assures him that she will handle her own affairs without his worry. She looks back at him with a cheerful, defiant burn. Logan asks how she plans to manage, but Hilda insists on focusing on the current meeting first. A metallic rattle sounds as Hilda opens the door, announcing that the Duke is waiting. Logan remains silent and thoughtful. Logan stares at Hilda, completely stunned by her masculine attire. Hilda maintains a steady, unwavering gaze. Logan expresses deep concern about her appearing before the Duke in her current state. Hilda jokes about her safety while Logan watches her with a dark, silent stare. Hilda stands tall and confident. The gray-haired Duke remains seated, noting her arrival with a cold, formal observation. A sudden, powerful energy surges as the Duke's purple eyes glow with intensity. Hilda stays resolute under the Duke's intimidating and silent assessment. Hilda bows respectfully as she formally introduces herself to her grandfather. The Duke breaks his silence to question the appropriateness of her clothing. Logan attempts to explain that he had ordered appropriate clothing to be prepared. Hilda recalls her frustration after being given a dress that was far too large. Challenged by the Duke, Hilda explains that no suitable dress was available in the duchy. The Duke's eyes narrow as he questions her lack of embarrassment over wearing men's clothes. Hilda listens intently to the Duke. Striking a bold pose, Hilda argues that a uniform is superior to a maid's outfit. The Duke finds her reasoning and her blunt attitude to be completely ridiculous. Logan takes responsibility for the failure, offering a humble apology to the Duke. Logan expresses regret for not ensuring her travel wardrobe was properly managed beforehand. The Duke notes her resemblance to her mother, though his tone remains sharply annoyed.
Hilda takes his remark as a compliment despite the man's clearly irritated demeanor.
The Duke demands that her magical talent match the high standards set by her mother. A heavy, weary sigh sounds as the Duke leans back in frustration. The Duke signals for her to sit, satisfied that her appearance has passed his initial test.
Logan admits to the Duke that he has not yet seen Hilda use any magic.
The Duke explains the historical importance of powerful mana in establishing legitimate noble status.
Possession of great magical energy serves as the ultimate proof of a true noble bloodline.
History recalls that the imperial family was descended from the lineage of a great archmage.
Over the passing centuries, the strength of magical bloodlines has significantly diluted. It is revealed that even the modern imperial line struggles to produce powerful mages.
Hilda recalls the stories she gathered from travelers during her time as a commoner.
Rumors are discussed regarding the Crown Prince's lack of mana and his questionable legitimacy.
The Duke declares his willingness to accept her if she can prove her heritage.
Hilda questions the specific method she must use to demonstrate her magical worth.
The Duke directs her attention toward a specific object located across the room.
A magical scroll featuring glowing ancient runes is presented as her next trial.
The Duke asks if she can read the characters as a test of her potential.
The Duke explains the rune's significance and begins a chant related to light magic.
Hilda looks puzzled as she tries to comprehend the Duke's demonstration.
Logan and the Duke exchange looks of utter astonishment at her confused reaction. Logan clarifies that those lacking mana would find the runes unreadable and silent. Logan elaborates that for a non-mage, the chant would only sound like scraping glass.
The realization of her successful test hits Hilda with a sudden shock.
Hilda is overcome with excitement as she realizes her magical power is real. Her anxiety from the long day finally begins to wash away in her relief.
Hilda rejoices at the fact that she can still read the runes despite having little mana.
The Duke dismisses her joy, refusing to accept her with only a tiny bit of power.
Frustrated, Hilda demands to know what else she must do to satisfy him.
The Duke stares at her coldly.
Hilda looks determined in her suit. The Duke questions her further as Hilda flatly confirms her response.
Hilda expresses shock at only needing to stay a night elf fair.
A foreboding mansion stands under a blood-red sky as ravens circle a bus. Hilda stares in disbelief, noting the mansion's haunted appearance.
Logan matter-of-factly confirms the girl's suspicion about the house.
A sudden exclamation of shock escapes Hilda.
Hilda protests the dangerous arrangement while Logan clarifies the true nature of the spirits.
Logan reminds her of his previous warning about Manaborn as Hilda disputes the terminology.
Frustration mounts as Hilda questions the necessity of facing spirits for magical training. Hilda laments the difficulty of her situation before the massive, eerie estate.
The scene shifts to the illuminated mansion under a starry sky.
Back inside, Hilda confronts the black-haired man as he consults a book.
A heavy, weary sigh escapes Logan as he looks down. Logan offers a polite invitation for tea, which Hilda finds unexpectedly charming.
Logan begins pouring tea while explaining the mansion's historical role in noble traditions.
Logan clarifies the location and the trial status as a coming-of-age ceremony.
Logan corrects Hilda's dismissive assumption about noble traditions. Hilda suspects mind reading, but Logan attributes his insight to her expressive eyes. Logan describes Manaborn as spirits born from mana that can be harnessed by humans. Hilda seeks clarification on why mages must face these spirits during their ceremony.
Hilda confirms that surviving the mansion proves one's magical caliber.
Hilda asks about the fate of those who lack sufficient power.
Logan recounts the tragic history of weak mages suffering possession or death.
Hilda asks if such dangers persist today, and Logan reassures her they do not. Relieved, Hilda listens as Logan explains that strong mages are now rare.
A moment of awkward silence passes between the two characters.
Realization dawns on Hilda regarding the Duke's ruthless trial for his granddaughter.
Logan offers a way out, but Hilda prioritizes her noble aspirations over safety.
Logan reveals that Hilda's mother survived a week in the mansion. Hilda feels a wave of relief comparing her single night to her mother's ordeal.
Hilda slumps over the table, anxious about her lack of offensive magic. Logan pauses to consider his next words.
Logan suggests that basic magic can be learned quickly, sparking Hilda's excitement.
Logan explains magical affinities and identifies his own specialization as sound.
Logan prepares to demonstrate his unique magical ability to the blonde girl. Hilda questions the nature of sound magic as arcane symbols surround her.
Panic sets in as Hilda realizes she has been rendered completely mute.
Logan smirks as he explains his magic while Hilda tries to scream silently. Hilda is impressed by the subtle but effective nature of his magic.
Hilda asks how to find her own specialty, but Logan's answer is disappointingly vague.
Hilda finds the man's advice about hard work to be completely unhelpful. Hilda shifts the conversation toward her mother's specific magical talents. Logan recalls Lady Lucia's preference for water and ice magic. Logan explains that personality shapes magic as Hilda reflects on her mother's wisdom. Hilda secretly jokes that Logan's affinity for sound comes from his constant nagging. Hilda requests to learn the simplest form of water magic. Logan begins a demonstration by pouring liquid from his teacup. Hilda watches in amazement as the tea defies gravity and rises upward. Determined to learn, Hilda listens as Logan explains the sensing of mana flow. Hilda asks how she should learn, but Logan simply tells her to work hard.
Logan explains that there is no set process, only the proficiency gained through constant practice.
Determined to begin, Hilda prepares to test her skills on the pool of orange liquid.
A heavy silence fills the room as the blonde girl focuses intently on the magical substance.
Despite her repeated chants and efforts, the liquid remains completely unresponsive to her commands.
Hilda slumps over in exhaustion while Logan suggests that fire magic might better suit her personality. Hilda questions his cryptic remark about her character, but the brown-haired man remains silent.
A sudden tap sounds as Logan demonstrates a spark spell using a nearby candelabra.
Hilda prepares to attempt the fire spell, questioning the specific incantation needed to succeed.
The candelabra remains unlit, leaving the room in a state of quiet failure.
Hilda feels utterly dejected, admitting that the trial of magic might be too much for her.
A sudden wave of confusion hits her as she stares into the oppressive darkness. Hilda's eyes widen in distress as she begins to sweat under a mounting internal pressure.
Panic sets in as Hilda feels a terrifying heat like boiling blood surging through her body.
Overwhelmed by the painful sensation, the girl questions what is happening to her.
A loud thud sounds as Logan stands up abruptly, shouting her name in visible alarm.
Logan rushes forward and grabs the girl's shoulders to steady her as she begins to collapse.
Logan urgently asks if she is all right, while Hilda gasps out a confirmation of her safety.
A sudden roar sounds as a massive explosion of blue flames erupts around the pair. Heavy breathing sounds as they collapse to the floor, finally extinguishing the fire after the furniture is destroyed.
Logan reflects on the struggle to quench the flames while Hilda realizes they are thinking the same thing.
Hilda excitedly asks if the outburst proves she has great mana, and Logan cautiously praises her optimism. Hilda tells Logan not to worry, mentioning an important realization she had about the previous night.
Logan's expression turns serious as Hilda reveals she heard about the night mansion from her mother. Logan hopes for secrets or tips, but Hilda explains her mother's belief in facing challenges directly.
Hilda clenches her fist with a look of intense, newfound resolve.
A heroic thud sounds as Hilda declares her intent to solve every problem with her iron fist.
Hilda boasts about the physical strength she gained working at a restaurant, while Logan notes her positivity.
Shifting her focus, the girl steels herself for the difficult trial awaiting her. Framed by blooming roses, Logan helps adjust her cloak and wishes for her safe return.
Hilda feels as though she is stepping onto a battlefield as she thanks him for his help.
A firm step sounds as Hilda prepares to walk toward the eerie estate.
With her white cloak fluttering behind her, Hilda walks confidently toward her looming trial. A loud caw sounds as ravens circle the rooftops of the silent, foreboding mansion.
A slow creak sounds as Hilda pushes open the massive doors and calls out into the darkness.
Holding her lantern high, Hilda notes that the interior of the mansion looks surprisingly normal.
Hilda tells herself to be careful as she begins her climb up the dark staircase.
Something catches the girl's attention, prompting a sudden exclamation of surprise. Hilda stops to stare at an imposing portrait of a man she assumes is the mansion's owner.
A chill runs down her spine as she notes the strangely creepy atmosphere surrounding the painting.
Hoping to end the night quickly, Hilda begins searching for the bedroom so she can sleep.
Soft footsteps sound as the blonde girl walks across the ornate carpets of the upper hallway.
Hilda pauses at a window and notices that the night has become pitch black outside.
To her surprise, she spots Logan's carriage still waiting outside the mansion gates.
A small hope flickers as she wonders if he is staying because he is worried about her. She quickly dismisses the thought, assuming he is only there to monitor her performance for the Duke. A chilling whoosh sounds as a mysterious voice asks what she finds so amusing.
Hilda spins around in shock, demanding to know who is hiding in the hallway.
Only silence greets her, leaving the girl to wonder what she just heard in the shadows. An unseen entity mockingly questions her lack of magical ability from the depths of the darkness.
A sinister, shadowy aura with a single glowing eye suddenly manifests behind the blonde girl.
Hilda's eye widens in terror as she senses the presence.
Spinning around in a panic, Hilda yells for the intruders to stop playing games and reveal themselves.
A dark, clawed hand suddenly seizes the girl's wrist as a voice maliciously suggests eating her arm, prompting a sharp cry of pain. Another shadowy limb grabs her by the hair, and the entity declares its intent to consume her head as the girl screams. Dozens of black hands erupt from the shadows to pull at Hilda's clothes and hair, leaving her questioning what is happening. Sweating and disoriented, the girl struggles to comprehend the chaotic assault. A small, dark shape suddenly streaks past as Hilda asks what just moved.
She catches a glimpse of the creature and wonders if it was a weasel.
Hilda charges up the stairs, resolving to capture one of the entities to force a negotiation.
A dark hand suddenly reaches out and snags her ankle as she runs.
With a sharp yelp, Hilda trips and falls hard onto the staircase.
The girl groans in pain, noticing her lantern has shattered and her palm is bleeding. Hilda laments that the situation has become truly terrible. She notes that with her lantern destroyed, she is trapped in complete darkness.
Staring at her injured hand, the girl feels a rising sense of despair and vulnerability.
Spirits with glowing eyes gather around her on the steps, mocking her fear and enjoying the sport of her suffering. Standing up in the gloom, Hilda addresses the laughing spirits, admitting that while tears are falling, she has reached her limit.
A wave of absolute fury washes over the blonde girl.
She questions why so many obstacles are preventing her from achieving her dream of a comfortable, noble life.
She recalls the Duke's cold treatment and the servants' mockery of her commoner roots. Her anger mounts as she thinks of the cruel spirits and her frustration with the inconsiderate Logan.
She reflects on how Logan's behavior makes it difficult to tell whose side he is actually on.
Hilda wonders why everyone keeps demanding she prove herself as if she were a pushover.
Drawing herself up to her full height, she reminds herself of her heritage as an arpeggio's daughter.
A shadowy creature slowly reaches out a clawed hand toward her boot. To the spirit's utter shock, Hilda's hand suddenly shoots down and seizes its wrist.
With a powerful motion, the girl slams the creature into the stone stairs.
A brilliant flash of light accompanies her yell as she finally lashes out.
The spirits recoil in horror, labeling her insane as they desperately try to flee from her. Hilda reaches out toward the retreating shadows, mockingly asking if they intend to run away already.
A massive, glowing blue magic circle forms beneath the girl as her eyes burn with intense resolve.
Roaring blue flames erupt from her body, incinerating the surrounding shadows and illuminating the hall.
Hilda coldly declares that the time for talking and negotiation has officially ended.
Clenching her hand into a tight fist, the girl states that only force remains. She announces that her true night in the mansion has only just begun.
Outside the gates, the dark-haired man stands alone by his carriage, keeping watch over the estate.
A weary sigh escapes Logan as he remains preoccupied with the trial.
Narration explains that most mages are too terrified to even approach the vicinity of the night mansion.
Logan questions his decision to let her enter so soon, feeling as though he has sent her to her doom.
Logan's eyes suddenly widen as a brilliant light reflects in his pupils.
He spins toward the mansion in shock, noticing the sudden, blinding brightness emanating from within. The entire facade of the dark estate begins to glow as magical energy pours out of the windows.
Logan stands frozen in disbelief at the sheer scale of the magical outburst.
His expression turns to one of deep concern as he watches the display. The man desperately wonders what kind of chaos is unfolding inside the house. Inside the mansion, 3 animal-headed spirits huddle together in a corner, trembling with fear.
The panther-headed spirit expresses total shock, having been convinced she possessed no magic at all.
The spirits whisper frantically, concluding that she isn't just a novice, but a complete maniac.
Hilde calls out playfully from the shadows, threatening to double their punishment if they don't come out immediately. The panther-headed spirit wonders if he should reveal himself and beg for forgiveness, while the lion-headed spirit suggests hiding until the sun rises.
The wolf-headed spirit reminds them of someone named Lucy who stayed for a week, noting the girl's resemblance, while Hilde watches them from behind.
A loud shiver sounds as the beastly spirits tremble in absolute terror.
The spirits debate if Lucy was also blonde, unaware that Hilda is standing directly behind them.
With a terrifying smile, Hilda announces she found them, prompting a loud collective scream from the 3 spirits. Hilda questions the spirits about her lack of sleep after they forced her to run around the mansion all night. Hilda regally orders the panther spirit to fan her properly while he offers a desperate apology.
Hilda sighs in disappointment, reflecting on how her prior nervousness was entirely misplaced given their current pathetic state.
Hilda questions why they are stuck in incomplete transformations and half-dressed states.
The wolf spirit explains that their lack of magic power prevents them from becoming true devils yet.
Hilda scolds the spirits for being unable to heal her hand, while the panther spirit explains that healing magic is a holy attribute they cannot possess.
Hilda laments their uselessness as the wolf and lion spirits cower on the floor and beg for forgiveness.
Hilda mocks the spirits' lack of threatening presence, asking if they are actually capable of doing anything at all.
The wolf spirit snaps back, telling the human not to go too far and calling her a reckless amateur.
Hilde lets out a sharp tisk, her intense gaze and pink eyes causing the wolf spirit to whimper in fear.
Hilda warns that his body might catch fire next time since she lacks control, causing the spirits to suddenly offer to teach her magic in a quick manner.
The wolf spirit boasts that he could teach even a dense person magic within 4 months using his fire attribute. Hilde points out that he would be beaten by people in his current form, leaving the wolf spirit confused about where they are going. Hilda insists the wolf spirit must accompany her since she refuses to live in a dilapidated demon's den for 4 months.
The panther spirit explains they cannot leave without a contract, which immediately confuses the blonde girl.
He explains that a familial contract involves sharing mana in exchange for loyalty and reciprocity. Hilda wonders if she is selling her soul, but the panther spirit clarifies that only devils do such things.
Hilda questions why her mother didn't make a contract with them, prompting the panther spirit to ask for her mother's name.
Hilda reveals her mother is Lucia Arpeggio, and a sudden dramatic crackle sounds as the spirits freeze in shock.
The spirits shout in disbelief, realizing she is the descendant of the crazy woman whose blood is in her veins.
Hilda asks on what her mother actually did to them to cause such a reaction.
The panther spirit nervously swallows, admitting they only intended to tease her mother at first.
A vision of the smiling mother appears as the panther recalls her forcing them to squat walk for a whole week.
Hilda asks if they rejected her mother's offer, but the panther explains Lucia claimed she had no confidence in taking care of pets.
Hilda responds with a single, stunned look of confusion.
Hilda looks at the massive, muscular spirits and wonders if her mother was weird for calling them pets.
Hilda notes his beastly form is a problem for going outside, and the wolf spirit suggests taking a different shape.
Hilda asks what kind of form he means.
The wolf spirit prepares for his transformation.
A loud poof sounds as Hilda gasps and covers her face from the sudden burst of smoke. Hilda peers through the clearing smoke in absolute confusion.
Small furry paws are seen standing on the carpet within the dissipating smoke.
A small black and white husky puppy stands where the massive wolf spirit once was.
The puppy boasts about his perfect disguise as Hilda lets out a surprised exclamation.
Hilda scoops up the adorable puppy with a joyful shout while the tiny spirit protests being handled so roughly.
Hilda happily decides to take the cute doggy as her familiar, while the puppy continues to shout about his pride as a wolf. Hilda walks toward the carriage waiting outside the estate dates.
Logan stands by the carriage in his white suit, looking surprised as Hilda approaches.
Logan points at the animal in her arms and asks about the sudden puppy.
Hilda announces that she has already made a contract with the Pookie.
The puppy yaps angrily, telling the pesky humans not to call him a puppy.
Hilda introduces her new familiar and mentions his promise to teach her magic.
Logan suggests keeping the contract a secret from the Duke, while Hilda asks why he would mind her having a familiar.
Logan points out that her task was simply to spend the night, so there's no reason to notify him about the contract.
Hilda agrees that staying out of the spotlight is wise, but she remains puzzled by Logan's opposition.
The blonde girl wonders if the dark-haired man is actively trying to prevent her from gaining the Duke's favor. Logan stands in silence with his back to the camera.
Hilda remains quiet as the scene shifts slightly.
Hilda requests that he hand over the puppy, vowing to protect it until she feels the environment is safe. Looking away, Hilda questions why she even expected a positive reaction from him in the first place. Hilda notes that Logan stayed at the estate all night instead of returning to the village, a fact he confirms. With a sarcastic smile, the girl asks if the Duke ordered Logan to keep an eye on her.
Hilda insists on keeping the puppy, mockingly claiming Logan's lack of magic makes her a safer guardian for the creature.
Stepping into the carriage, Hilda feels disrespected by Logan's constant surveillance and his role as the Duke's vassal. The blonde girl's anger intensifies the more she reflects on Logan's frustrating behavior. A massive, brilliantly lit palace stands against the dark mountain backdrop at night. Hilda walks through a large, opulent study toward the gray-haired Duke seated at his desk.
From behind Hilda, the Duke admits that he honestly wasn't expecting much from her trial.
Standing before the floral pattern background, Hilda listens as the Duke regally orders her to sit down.
Thinking that the man is infuriating, Hilda sarcastically remarks on how quickly the Viscount reported her success to the Duke. The Duke reveals he hasn't even summoned Strauss yet, causing a shocked Hilda to ask how he knew she succeeded.
In a simplified art style, the Duke explains he had an observer following her, leaving Hilda speechless with an
Hilda wonders why Logan stayed all night if he wasn't the official observer, questioning if it was out of loyalty.
Dismissing it as unnecessary extra service, Hilda expresses mock pity for the Viscount's efforts.
Hilda asks why the Duke didn't inform Logan about the official tale so he wouldn't have wasted the entire night. The Duke notes that Strauss should have known about the other observer and asks if he failed to mention it.
Hilda sits on the large armchair, completely stunned by the implication of the Duke's words.
A sudden, sharp realization dawns on the blonde girl's face. Hilda recalls the image of Logan standing alone by the carriage, wondering why he stayed if he wasn't ordered to. Hilda realizes with wide-eyed shock that Logan might have actually been worried about her safety. A sheepish, guilty smile crosses her face as she admits she had no idea about his concern. Freaking out in a chibi style, Hilda regrets her sarcastic attitude toward Logan and wonders why he didn't just explain himself. The Duke commends her for actually spending the night in the mansion, while Hilda offers a subdued thanks. The Duke states she must now focus on magic, though his cold gaze suggests she views her only as a tool.
Hilda asks for explicit confirmation on whether she has finally become an official member of the family.
The Duke confirms her room is ready and mentions preparing the family registry and an official report for His Majesty. He notes she has much to learn and plans to introduce her to the rest of the family after they return. The Duke commands her to master everything so that no trace of her commoner past is revealed, a word Hilda repeats.
He insists that her magic, dress, speech, and even her walk must prove her worth as an arpeggio.
Placing a firm hand on her shoulder, the Duke tells her to enjoy her new status as part of the family. Hilda stares back at the older man with a neutral, contemplative expression.
Holding her hand to her chest, the girl reflects on finally achieving her lifelong dream of becoming a noble.
She notes that the thrill is gone now that it's happened, feeling the Duke's acknowledgement based on magic makes it seem pointless.
The blonde girl remains silent, looking down with a somber gaze.
Standing up suddenly, Hilda boldly declares she was dope this time, leaving the confused Duke questioning the slang term.
Hilda requests a reward consisting of 2 specific favors, and the Duke agrees to listen to them.
The girl begins to state her first request. Standing regally, Hilda announces that her first demand is to own the Night Mansion.
Narration explains that requesting the abandoned mansion avoids family friction since no one else would want it.
It notes that owning the estate would showcase her magic power with no negative consequences for herself or the arpeggios.
The Duke informs her that the Night Mansion is currently the property of the Imperial family.
Hilde points out that the Empire no longer holds ceremonies there and likely views the property as a burden.
With a sweet smile, she suggests the Duke could acquire the mansion for a bargain if he offers to purchase it.
The Duke says he will keep the suggestion in mind and asks what her second request is.
Hilda recalls the first day she arrived at the estate, specifically remembering the brown-haired maid who forced her into servant's clothes.
Hilda asserts her authority by demanding that all the servants in the mansion be gathered immediately.
Surrounded by a floral aura, Hilda looks confident and ready to confront those who mistreated her.
Standing at the top of the grand staircase, Hilde looks down at the long rows of maids assembled in the hall.
Hilda asks if everyone is present, and the head butler confirms that all currently hired staff have gathered.
Hilda addresses the group, asking if they are all fully aware of who she is. Looking out over the servants, Hilda notes that their poor choice of clothing for her caused significant trouble.
Hilda declares that everyone's attempts to spite her have been deeply engraved in her mind, causing a nearby maid to tremble. The blonde girl stares down the silent crowd, her presence commanding the entire room. With her eyes glowing a fierce pink, Hilda sharply asks who gave them permission to interrupt while she was speaking. She calls the act of touching her luggage without permission completely intolerable and looks for an explanation. A maid named Dorothy collapses to her knees, begging for mercy and promising never to repeat her actions.
Hilda gazes down at the groveling woman with an icy expression, questioning if her apology is actually sincere.
Dorothy continues to plead, admitting her behavior was unforgivable while staying prostrated on the floor.
Hilde offers a single opportunity for the maid to regain her forgiveness, prompting Dorothy to look up in shock.
The maid remains huddled on the floor, terrified of what the blonde girl might do next. Hilda suspects that the head maid, Henri, was the one who actually instigated the plan to humiliate her.
Hilda announces to the entire group that she is giving every one of them a similar opportunity.
She singles out those who carried her bags or handled her laundry, noting that everyone played a part.
Hilda also calls out those who saw the insults happening but chose to remain silent.
Hilda promises to overlook the transgressions of anyone who comes to her and apologizes before midnight today. In the background, several maids whisper and giggle amongst themselves, seemingly unfazed by the threat. To encourage honesty, Hilda offers a reward of 10 kina to anyone who reports those involved in the scheme. A subtle, calculating smile crosses Hilda's face as she watches the servants' reactions.
She warns that being reported by a peer will result in a 20 kina fine, which increases to 50 for those who remain stubborn.
Hilda points out that 50 kina is nearly half of a subordinate maid's monthly wage, adding that the punishment won't stop there. With a menacing grin, she threatens that anyone who continues to defy her will have their head flying. Hilda turns to leave, telling the gathered servants that she will be waiting for their decisions. She pauses to remark that her words are specifically intended for those who discriminate against others based on status. Hilda claims that her actions are being carried out with the Duke's full approval, leaving the maids in a state of panic. A final message advises the servants to give up on trying any more slick tricks against her. Later, Hilda waits in her drawing room with Logan while sharing the story of her success. Dorothy is the first to arrive, prostrating herself once more to receive Hilda's official forgiveness. After Dorothy leaves, 2 hours pass without a single other person coming to find the young lady. Logan asks if Hilda really expects the other servants to simply come and find her. He explains that the workers in the ducal family have immense pride and closely tie their status to the master they serve. Hilda remains unbothered while petting her puppy Familiar, stating that they just need more time to think things through. She realizes that everything will work out perfectly if just one more person breaks under the pressure. Hilda knows the fear of being reported by their colleagues will eventually drive the maids to her door. Her thoughts are interrupted by a sudden, rhythmic knock-knock sounding at the door.
A triumphant smile spreads across Hilda's face as she realizes someone has finally come.
Sitting regally on her sofa with the puppy in her arms, Hilda waits for the visitor to enter.
Logan looks at the blonde girl with newfound respect, admitting her psychological plan was on point.
2 more maids arrive to apologize, and word of their visit quickly spreads to the rest of the staff. The maids scramble to confess, blaming each other for moving bags and preparing the servant's uniform while begging for mercy. They eventually claim that head maid Henri was the one who told them no dresses were available. Hilda lets out a tired sigh, feeling exhausted after being visited by so many people in droves. Another sudden knock-knock echoes, and Hilda tells the person to come in.
The door slowly creaks open, revealing only a foot as the next visitor hesitates to enter.
One more maid enters the drawing room and bows deeply before Hilda and Logan. The red-haired maid stands bowed before the young lady. While stroking her puppy, Hilda observes that it is interesting how Henri, whom she considers the worst instigator, pretends to sacrifice herself for the others. The red-haired maid admits that she knows the wrongdoings were her own, while the blonde girl remains silent.
Hilda informs Henri that someone has already reported her, and as a result, her wages will be cut by 20 kina this month.
The blonde girl asks the maid if she has any complaints regarding the parswit.
Henri is surprised and asks if that is truly all, while Hilda questions if she hadn't already made her terms clear.
The maid wonders if she would have really been forgiven if she had come forward first despite being the leader, and Hilda confirms she would have, as that was her promise.
Hilda states that those who were reported but failed to come forward by midnight will still have 50 kina deducted from their wages.
Narration notes that Henri quietly leaves, appearing to have been prepared for far harsher consequences like being fired. Soon after, the remaining maids arrive to apologize, likely following orders from the head maid.
Logan watches Hilda, admitting he was concerned she might have acted rashly without prior thought.
Seeing her now, Logan reflects that Hilde remained so calm that even the head maid was visibly flustered by her composure.
Holding her puppy Familiar, the girl looks toward the side as Logan finds her behavior quite unexpected.
A sudden realization strikes the brown-haired man.
The white-haired Duke remarks that Hilda is an odd child despite being accepted as an arpeggio, while Logan notes the situation wasn't a significant ordeal. The Duke argues that it was an ordeal if it reached his ears, mentioning the butler Graham found it interesting, which makes Logan wonder if the butler was the source.
When the Duke asks about Henri's punishment, Logan reports that Hilda decided on a 20 kina pay cut for the month.
Looking at a document, the older man notes the punishment is much lighter than he anticipated.
The Duke considers it a wise choice, noting that firing Henri would have made an enemy of Duchess Tarina.
Logan smiles slightly, thinking Hilda probably didn't know about the political implications, but agreeing the Duke is correct.
Narration explains that Henri serves Duchess Tarina, so firing the head maid would have sparked a conflict before Hilda even met the Duchess.
The Duke instructs Logan to teach the girl well, as finding a teacher of his skill is difficult, leaving the Viscount surprised.
Logan looks flustered as the Duke suggests the girl is friendly with him, causing him to quickly deny their friendliness.
The white-haired man ends the discussion, stating he knows Logan is not the type to scheme.
The Duke hands over a letter for the Emperor, telling Logan to deliver it to Graham.
Logan asks if the letter concerns Hilde, and the Duke confirms he is requesting a meeting and registering her into the family registry.
Placing a hand on the younger man's shoulder, the Duke expresses relief that Lucy's daughter takes after her mother.
The two men walk past each other in the dimly lit room.
The Viscount's collar is pulled tight as a sharp clenching sound echoes. Walking through the palace, Logan wonders if Hilda would have felt sad hearing the Duke's cold assessment of her.
Logan realizes it might actually be a relief if she doesn't find out and reach the point of flipping tables in anger.
A forceful grip tightens on the letter as Logan wonders if he should have defended her to the Duke.
The brown-haired man stares out the window in silence.
Shaking off his thoughts, Logan questions why he is allowing himself to be swayed by fleeting emotions. He reminds himself that Hilda is garrulous, emotional, quick to anger, and occasionally violent, unlike other noble ladies. Standing before the grand doors, Logan wonders what specific part of her he finds so attractive.
A sudden sharp creak sounds as the door slowly opens.
The blonde girl looks down with a contemplative expression. Sitting in a pink gown and rubbing her leg, Hilda wonders why her limbs feel so sore.
Logan lets out a sigh, noting to himself that she once again lacks even a hint of noble elegance.
Despite his critique, he finds himself wondering why her free and lighthearted demeanor seems to suit her so well.
Hilda is startled by Logan's presence and lets out a small sound of surprise. When Logan asks if she's finished her work, Hilda confirms she has and asks why he has come to see her.
The blonde girl admits she has something to apologize for, leaving the Viscount confused.
Hilda clears her throat nervously before beginning her apology.
She recalls the rude things she said, specifically accusing him of surveillance and insulting his magic power.
Hilda acknowledges that he actually stayed at the mansion all night because he was worried, though Logan insists she shouldn't be concerned.
The girl argues that it is important because he might be upset that she misunderstood his true intentions. Logan stands silent as a sincere apology is offered to him.
Hilda jokingly adds that she would have kept an eye on him if ordered, but the fact that he stayed voluntarily is what matters most.
She offers a sincere thanks for his concern on that specific day.
Hilda smiles with quiet elegance.
The brown-haired man insists his actions are strictly dictated by the Duke's orders.
Logan turns away, claiming he would evict her without hesitation if commanded, so no gratitude is necessary.
Hilde points out that his prior actions were not mandated, suggesting his concern was genuine.
Sunlight illuminates the pair amongst blooming roses.
Looking at her, Logan thinks that she is too trusting to survive the complexities of high society.
A sharp clenching sound echoes as his hand tightens into a fist.
He acknowledges that, despite his warnings, she established her place in the noble family through her own resolve. Logan watches the young lady in contemplative silence.
Hilda calls out to the Viscount as they stand near the long table. Hilda gently tugs on Logan's sleeve, asking if he is available to accompany her somewhere.
A sudden startle sounds as Logan points out it is long past midnight.
A sly, triumphant grin spreads across Hilda's face.
Seated at the grand table, Logan asks if she prepared the meal herself. With a bright, magical flair, Hilde proudly confirms that she did indeed cook.
Sweet honey is poured over fresh red apples.
A perfectly baked apple pie sits beside a cup of tea. Hilda recalls spending her time in the kitchen preparing the pie as a tangible apology.
The mansion's head chef bows deeply, desperately requesting the secret to her recipe.
Her heart beats with excitement as she remembers learning to cook from her father and anticipates Logan's reaction.
Logan stares at the food, visibly stunned by the gesture.
The Viscount simply asks why she went through such effort. Logan begins a stern lecture, arguing that a noble lady should never do manual labor and questioning her safety among the staff.
Hilda dismissively argues that the kitchen staff treated her with divine reverence after tasting her work. Logan continues to nag her about maintaining the dignity of her new social status.
Fed up with the lecture, Hilda forcefully stuffs a piece of pie into Logan's mouth to silence him. A soft chewing sound is heard as Hilda finds his eating habits unexpectedly endearing. Logan realizes the apple pie was a play on words for an apology, advising her to avoid such puns.
He takes a moment to appreciate the fragrant scent of cinnamon.
A sharp clap sounds as Hilda joyfully celebrates his accurate observation.
Logan notes the complex aroma of the tea, sensing multiple hidden flavors.
He admits with a slight blush that he has never tasted anything quite like it.
Hilda details the extensive process of drying fruit and steaming jujube, leaving Logan shocked by her dedication.
She felt compelled to put in that much effort to prove her sincerity.
Logan holds his cup in quiet reflection.
He gently informs her that no apology was ever needed.
The man repeats that he is merely fulfilling his duty to the family.
Hilda considers his words, trying to understand the world from his perspective. She reflects that Logan's reliability comes from his refusal to manipulate her feelings to gain her trust.
Logan advises her to maintain a proper distance from the servants and stay out of the kitchen. He softens his stance, asking her to inform him if she ever truly wishes to cook again.
Logan offers to guide her directly whenever she is unsure, promising to help her adapt to the household safely.
He gazes at her with an unusually gentle expression.
Hilda looks up hopefully, asking if he is truly on her side.
A tight clenching sound follows as she grips her gown, fearing another cold, duty-bound response.
Logan pauses, surrounded by a delicate floral aura.
Taking her hand, Logan states that as long as it does not conflict with his standing orders. He looks directly at the blonde girl and vows to be her ally.
Hilda breaks into a radiant, happy smile.
Hilda excitedly asks if they have finally made up and are getting along now.
A soft, amused puff of air escapes as Logan smiles warmly at her.
Logan thanks her, noting it was the most delicious pie he had ever tasted.
Moonlight fades from the window as the long night finally concludes. Soft morning light illuminates the bedroom's ornate screen and vanity. A weary breath sounds as Logan dries his hair after a morning bath.
The brown-haired man stares ahead with a focused and determined expression.
Reflecting on the shared pie, Logan realizes they were just two ordinary people. Hilda walks confidently through glowing thorns, prepared for high society's chaos and humiliation.
The blonde girl offers a serene and knowing smile.
A new day begins with a sense of quiet determination. Reflecting on his past, Logan admits he never possessed those noble qualities himself. Sunlight strikes the manor's large windows as a voice calls for the lady.
Dorothy urges Hilda to wake up, but she groggily asks for 5 more minutes.
The maid mentions Logan is waiting, while Hilda finds him a handsome nagger.
Dorothy offers help dressing, but Hilda insists on handling it herself.
Hilda focuses intensely on writing as Logan watches her every move. A radiant burst of magic fills the room during her training session. Hilda greets Logan, noting she uses his first name since joining the registry. Logan welcomes her to the library as she admires his early morning energy. Hilda asks Logan about his sleep habits as they sit at the table.
Logan reveals he only sleeps 4 hours, leaving Hilda completely shocked.
Logan says he will sleep more once she succeeds, making Hilda feel guilty.
A loud thud sounds as Logan drops a heavy stack of books on the table.
Logan demands she sit up properly, but Hilda complains she is too tired. The puppy familiar questions why Hilda has no willpower to learn her lessons.
Hilda admits she only wanted magic to maintain her status as a noble.
A sharp smack sounds as the puppy questions her lack of true ambition.
Hilda's puppy familiar suggests world domination as a possible goal for her.
The familiar laughs, telling Hilda her current magic level makes that impossible. Dark splatters and textures create a grim and foreboding atmosphere. Blood-red stains obscure the view of ancient, overgrown ruins in the woods.
Narration explains a great magician's power to destroy and rebuild cities in one day.
A sudden chill fills the room as the atmosphere turns serious. Logan asks for clarification on what becoming a great magician would mean. Hilda tells Logan to be nicer before she resorts to destroying the Empire out of anger. A soft chuckle sounds as Logan warns that potential is useless without study.
A quick startle sounds as Hilda stands up to challenge his lack of trust.
Logan sarcastically claims he trusts her, while Hilda grumbles in frustration.
A sharp tap sounds as Hilda vows to become a great magician soon.
Hilda determines she will study hard so Logan can no longer ignore her.
A long, weary sigh escapes from the blonde girl's lips. A heavy thud sounds as Hilda collapses, struggling to grasp the magic's core. The puppy scolds her for not understanding that runes are a conversational language. A sudden startle sounds as Logan instructs her to trust her inner manner.
Logan quietly wonders if the creature is simply a small doggy.
Hilda asks with surprise when Logan and the puppy became so chani. Logan suggests she jog her memory of when they used magic together.
Hilda admits she was scared because she could not control her power.
Logan encourages her to relive the specific feeling from the night mansion. The puppy familiar suggests that reliving the intense emotions of that night would be a good strategy.
Hilda taps her hand pensively as she tries to pinpoint exactly what she was feeling back then.
Logan stands by with the small dog in his arms, waiting for her to find her focus.
A dark, intense thought of capturing and crushing her enemies surfaces in the silence. Hilda reflects on her past, realizing she felt a deep yearning for violence.
The puppy jokingly asks the brown-haired man if all humans are so violent, while an annoyed Hilda shouts back in protest.
Her heart begins to beat rapidly as she prepares to draw upon her hidden power.
A loud, rhythmic thumping sound echoes the racing of her heart.
A complex glowing magical circle manifests behind her as she begins to channel her mana.
The familiar's ears perk up as he observes her mana distributing itself in the proper order.
Logan urgently commands her to begin chanting the spell immediately to capture the moment. Feeling a strange, heart-pounding sensation, Hilda wonders if this is the true flow of mana and if she is learning correctly.
Her focus wavers as she suddenly worries about the possibility of causing another massive, uncontrollable fire.
Logan reaches out and firmly takes her hand, reassuring her not to worry about the consequences. The brown-haired man promises that he and Mr. Wuffy will handle any complications that might arise.
He encourages her to simply give it a try for now, surrounded by a gentle floral atmosphere.
A soft, nervous gulping sound is heard as Hilda prepares to commit to the attempt.
She resolves to replicate the exact method she used during the incident at the Night Mansion.
Standing within the large magical seal on the floor, Hilda gathers her resolve.
She focuses on her negative emotions, listing rage, annoyance, explosion, and revenge as her primary catalysts. With a command for her negativity to boil over, a brilliant blue magical circle ignites beneath her. A sharp, startled sound escapes as Hilda's eyes begin to glow with intense, ethereal light. A flickering blue flame erupts from her palm, signaling the activation of her magic.
Hilda is overjoyed, exclaiming that she has finally succeeded in casting the spell.
Her expression shifts to one of sudden confusion as she realizes something is wrong.
A powerful surging sound fills the room as the blue flames suddenly flare out of control.
Panicking, Hilda realizes the magical fire won't stop and is consuming everything around her hand.
A sharp gasp of alarm sounds as Logan stares at the escalating disaster in shock.
Hilda cries out in fear while the puppy familiar screams for her to stop before it's too late.
Logan shouts a commanding order for her to stay still as he rushes toward the center of the magical circle.
A sudden, sharp gasp is heard as Logan's hand reaches into the swirling blue mana.
Hilda is stunned to see the volatile magic simply melt away under his touch.
The puppy familiar breathes a sigh of relief, explaining that her power is so immense it is naturally difficult to control. Hilda asks for clarification if the dog was actually the one who quelled the fire, and he smugly confirms.
Overjoyed, Hilda lifts the puppy high as he boasts that he can help her master her magic.
Logan watches with a warm smile as Hilda promises the adorable punk a walk by the riverside as a reward.
Night falls over the mansion, and the scene shifts to a quiet, private study session. From high above, Logan is seen instructing Hilda as they sit at a grand table.
Hilda listens intently, looking elegant in her study attire amidst a backdrop of lilies.
Logan nags her to maintain proper posture, but Hilda dismisses the need for formality when they are alone.
Now wearing glasses, Logan holds a pointer and an open book, preparing to begin the day's lesson.
A sharp tapping sound follows as Logan points to a board featuring the arpeggio family tree.
He emphasizes that, as a family member, she must thoroughly understand their long pedigree and history.
Hilda questions the necessity of learning about people who have been dead for over 300 years.
Looking at his handsome face and articulate manner, Hilda privately thinks that Logan is exactly her type.
She suggests that they should instead prioritize learning about the family members who are currently alive.
Logan lets out a weary sigh, but agrees to her terms and promises to explain everything slowly.
He begins by noting that there are 7 family members using the arpeggio name, including Hilda herself.
Logan presents a portrait of Tarina Arpeggio, the current Duchess, noting her origin from the Galliad family.
Hilda clarifies the family relations, and Logan confirms that Duchess Tarina is the second Duchess of the house.
Hilda worries that the family members will see her as a bloodless intruder.
Logan presents a portrait of Freddie Arpeggio, the Duchess's son, who is 3 years younger than Hilda.
Hilda realizes she borrowed clothes from Freddie and feels a sudden sense of friendliness toward him.
Logan displays a portrait of the eldest son, Fior Arpeggio. Logan introduces Claire Arpeggio, the sister of Lady Lucia. Logan points out Timo Arpeggio, the son of Fior and Hilda's cousin. Logan completes the introductions with a portrait of Fior's wife, Lady Ortiz.
Hilda holds up her hands in shock.
Overwhelmed, Hilda begs Logan to slow down and stop rushing through hundreds of family names.
Logan looks at her calmly through his glasses, asking if he was going too fast.
He explains that she must know everything by noon because she has a test tomorrow.
Her purple eyes widen in pure horror.
Hilda stares at him in complete disbelief. A silent scream of internal frustration fills her mind.
Hilda jumps to her feet to protest the test, but Logan questions if she can't memorize it in a day.
Hilda shouts that she isn't a genius like him and demands he look at her struggle.
Logan offers 2 days, but Hilda desperately counters, insisting she needs at least 5.
As night hangs over the library, Logan offers 3 days while Hilda shouts for 4.
Logan finally agrees to 4 days, though he privately thinks 1 should have been enough.
Hilda stares at a mountain of books, wondering how she was ever expected to finish in a single day.
Hilda asks if any of these relatives will be kind, but Logan warns her to hope they ignore her instead.
Hilda wonders why they would be wary since she doesn't think she has a claim to succession.
Logan mentions that becoming an official noble means she could actually succeed the title.
The sudden revelation of her potential power leaves Hilda breathless. Logan notes that because of this, everyone in the family currently has an equal chance at leadership. A contemplative tap sounds as Hilda considers the weight of her new situation. Amidst glowing magical circles, Hilda reflects that she is the daughter of the eldest daughter and possesses immense magic. Hilda realizes others must fear her and playfully laments the burden of her own shining existence. She sighs dramatically while Logan watches her theatrics with a confused expression.
Looking out at the night, Logan notes that it will be another month before the rest of the family returns.
The Grand Arpeggio Manor stands majestic under a clear blue sky.
Hilda enjoys a quiet afternoon walk with Wuffy on a leash.
Exhausted after her stroll, Hilda yawns and decides it is time to head back.
She suddenly stops, spotting something unexpected in the court arc.
Hilda watches as several carriages and servants arrive at the manor.
Wuffy notes that with so much luggage, the arrivals are likely not just temporary guests.
Hilda decides to investigate, worried that Logan will nag her if she is late getting inside. A servant runs up to greet her, explaining that he has been looking everywhere for her.
The man asks to take the puppy so he can bathe him and return him to her room later. A rhythmic sweeping sound follows as the staff works quickly around the arriving carriage.
A gardener trims the hedges as the servant promises to explain everything later.
Hilda wonders who the owner of the carriage is as she considers the servant's request.
Hilda agrees to let Wuffy go, while the puppy looks back at her with a worried expression.
With a shadowed, mischievous look, Hilda tells Wuffy to have a fun time.
Hilda's silent command instructs Wuffy to go undercover and find out who has arrived.
The manor's interior is flooded with boxes and crates of all sizes.
Hilda walks through the hall, noting that it looks like someone is moving in permanently.
She pauses to look at a rack of incredibly ornate and heavy dresses.
Hilda thinks the dresses look terrifyingly fragile, fearing the jewels would fall off with any movement.
She wonders if the gown requires the wearer to stand perfectly still when a voice suddenly calls out to her.
Hilda turns around with a bewildered expression.
A blonde, freckled boy in a purple suit stands defiantly before her.
A sharp slap echoes as the boy suddenly strikes Hilda across the face.
Stunned, Hilda stares back with her eyes reflecting a strange, intense light.
They stand in a chaotic hallway filled with servants and moving boxes.
Hilda clutches her stinging cheek, wondering why a stranger would hit her.
She notes the boy's short blonde hair, freckles, and yellowish eyes.
An intense, dark fury bubbles up within Hilda as she clenches her fist.
A thunderous slap rings out as Hilda returns the blow with interest.
Maids rush to help the boy while he gasps in utter disbelief. A sharp sound follows as Hilda aggressively swats the boy's hand away. The boy screams in outrage, demanding to know if she has any idea who he is.
Hilda looks over her shoulder, reminding him that he was the one who hit her first. She questions why anyone would hit a stranger without knowing their identity.
He fumes, declaring that not even his parents have ever touched his precious face.
The boy shrieks insults at her, calling her a thieving, cat-ass-looking girl. Hilda lets out a weary sigh, mocking the low quality of his insults.
A sudden thud sounds as Hilda places a firm, intimidating hand on his shoulder.
Dark energy swirls as Hilda threatens to perform a series of vulgar acts upon him.
Her censored threats continue as the boy turns blue with sheer terror.
Freddie stammers in horror at her filthy mouth while the maids look on, aghast.
Hilda suddenly freezes as a realization strikes her like a bolt of lightning. She recalls the family tree, searching for the name Freddie in her mind.
She realizes the boy's features perfectly match the portrait of Freddie Arpeggio.
Her internal world shatters as she realizes he is Duchess Arpeggio's son.
Hilda frantically calculates their relationship, realizing he is technically her half-uncle.
She collapses in cartoonish despair, lamenting that she has committed an immoral act.
A quick rush follows as Hilda tries to check his face, but he recoils in disgust.
She suggests he should change his surname if he finds her so unrefanged.
Freddie insists he was punishing a thief for touching other people's property.
Hilda realizes he is likely referring to the clothes she borrowed all year.
She explains she had the Duke's permission, but he remains disgusted by her touch. Freddie moans in pain while Hilda worries she might have loosened his tooth.
A sharp gasp escapes as Hilda tries to help, causing Freddie to scream for release.
He raises his hand to strike again. Hilda winces, fearing she'll be hit once more.
A firm grip suddenly catches his wrist midair, stopping the violent swing. Logan intervenes, sternly advising the boy to leave things as they are.
A heavy thud echoes as Freddie punches Logan directly in the face.
A maid reports to the Duchess that Hilda has begun manipulating staff waiters.
Duchess Tarina Arpeggio listens, dismissing the idea that the Duke would grant such power.
Tarina questions if the head maid truly believes the newcomer's bold claims.
The maid confirms that the Duke has not interfered with Hilda's actions at all.
Tarina reclines, assuming the Duke finds power struggles between lessers beneath his notice.
The maid wonders how a commoner girl could act with such unwavering confidence.
Tarina smiles knowingly, suspecting the girl might be more quick-witted than she seems. The Duchess predicts Hilde will fall from favor due to her own ignorance.
Narrative text emphasizes Hilda's humble origins as a girl hidden in the countryside.
Tarina considers Logan, the fox-like Strauss, to be a far greater threat.
She reflects on how the Duke trusts the Viscount as if he were his own son.
Tarina questions if Logan has been secretly protecting Hilde this whole time.
A maid reports to the dark-haired woman that Logan is currently assisting Hilde with her studies.
Tarina dismissively refers to Logan as a fox-like punk and wonders how he deceived the entire family.
She considers Hilda's bloodline to be tainted because of her commoner origins.
Henry questions why the Duchess would allow someone like Hilde to use the arpeggio nan.
Tarina warns the maid to watch her conduct and claims the matter is beneath her notice.
While the Duchess notes Hilda's official noble status, the maid privately asserts her own respectability.
Narrative text notes Hilda's precarious position as shadows loom over her future.
A maid suddenly bursts into the room, shouting that a major problem has occurred. She reports to the startled Duchess that Hilda and Freddie are currently fighting in the lobby.
In the lobby, Freddie is furious while Hilda watches the confrontation in total shock. A surge of energy erupts as Hilde wonders why Logan is tolerating the boy's attacks. Hilda watches with wide eyes as Logan remains silent and stoic under Freddie's aggression. Freddie screams at the man for not flinching while Hilde considers him completely insane.
A fist clenches tightly as the tension in the room reaches a breaking point.
With a loud thud, Hilda suddenly strikes Freddie in the face to end his assault.
Freddie falls to the floor as the maids scream in panic for their young master.
Hilda angrily scolds the staff for standing by while Logan was being attacked.
Blood dripping from his nose, Freddie tearfully demands that someone call for his mother immediately. Hilda stands defiantly over the fallen boy as he stares back in utter disbelief.
She mockingly asks if he was so terrified that he soiled himself while crying for his mother. Logan quickly muffles her mouth with his hand to stop her from saying anything more.
Hilda is frustrated that she is being silenced while finally exercising her right to free speech.
Logan calmly suggests they go speak elsewhere while Hilda continues to make muffled protests.
As Logan leads her away, Hilda determines to fix the boy's terrible personality. Hilda points an accusatory finger, warning Freddie that she will be watching him closely. Freddie sits on the floor trembling, looking dazed and humiliated after the confrontation.
Later, Hilde looks down and quietly admits that she made a mistake.
She explains to Logan that she lost her temper because Freddie was swinging at an innocent person. Logan asks her to look up so he can examine her face. His handsome features and intense gaze catch her completely off guard.
Logan applies treatment to her cheek while Hilde questions if he is truly sorry for her. She apologizes for causing a scene, but Logan clarifies that she was the one who created the chaos.
Hilda is annoyed by his bluntness and thinks he is being quite rude. Logan explains that Freddie typically mistreats those he views as socially inferior.
Hilda insists she has no regrets because her mother taught her never to accept being hit.
Logan notes that he partially agrees with her perspective on self-defense.
He tells her that she didn't need to get so angry on his behalf. Hilda reflects on her desire to have Logan on her side but refuses to force him.
She firmly declares that she does not want him to sacrifice himself for her sake.
Logan looks at her with a soft, contemplative expression.
Hilda worries she made things complicated, but asserts she will protect her own allies.
Amidst blooming flowers, Hilda admits that he is an incredibly handsome yet rude man.
She tells Logan he should be worried about his own injuries, but he insists he is fine.
Hilde grabs his face, causing him to let out a muffled sound of surprise. She is amazed by how smooth and glossy his skin feels to the touch.
Hilda delights in the excuse to touch his handsome face as a reward for her deed.
Her anger returns as she vows revenge against Freddie for daring to hit Logan's face.
A maid knocks on the door and asks for their attention.
She informs them that the Duchess has invited both of them to dinner tonight.
Hilda wonders if the Duchess plans to punish her for the physical altercation with Freddie.
Logan gently holds Hilda's hands as they sit together in a quiet moment of reflection.
Hilda observes that this man is firmly on her side.
Hilda smiles confidently and confirms her presence with a look of determination.
The dinner group sits at a long, elegantly set table in the grand dining hall.
Duchess Tarina asks if she is Miss Hilda Ruth, and Hilda politely confirms her identity.
Logan clears his throat to signal her, causing Hildy to realize she needs to correct her name.
Hilda corrects herself as Hilda Arpeggio, triggering Freddie's outrage over her using the family name.
Tarina scolds Freddie for his manners, reminding him that the name was granted by the Duke's decision. Freddie remains furious, questioning how such a major decision was made without consulting the rest of the family.
Logan coolly asks if a discussion was truly necessary, leaving Freddie sputtering in disbelief at his defiance. Logan clarifies that he is only asking this for Freddie's own personal benefit.
He asks if Freddie is actually opposing the Duke's authority, making the boy stammer out a frantic denial. Tarina asks Hilda to forgive her son's behavior, attributing his rudeness to his young age.
While Hilda's inner spirit screams about her own past work ethic, she outwardly agrees to understand.
Tarina clasps her hands together, confessing that she finds the entire situation rather flustering. The Duchess mentions Lucia and notes she never met her, which Hilde acknowledges with a calm response. She states that since the Duke ordered this, she does not personally hold Hilda responsible for the change.
However, Tarina makes it clear she would have preferred being informed directly rather than hearing through rumors. She pointedly asks Logan if he has forgotten that she is the mistress of this household.
Hilda internally reels from what she perceives as an incredibly high-class verbal insult. Logan apologizes for any upset, explaining he simply didn't want to bother her during the busy social season. Tarina accepts the excuse, while Hilde finds this verbal sparring far more entertaining than a physical fight. Her hand flinches as Tarina suddenly asks for the specific reason behind the brawl with Freddie. Hilda suggests that the Duchess might want to direct that question toward her son first. Freddie recoils while a mental note explains that first strike refers to the one who attacked first. Freddie points an accusing finger, claiming she started it by touching his clothes without his permission.
Hilda retorts that the Duke gave permission, suggesting Freddie talk to him unless he is too cowardly.
Freddie mocks her wide eyes, and Hilde facetiously demonstrates that she cannot physically make them triangular. Freddie cries out for his mother as the absurdity of the argument continues at the table. Tarina argues that Hilda had no right to strike Freddie, prompting Hilda to realize the Duchess's true nature. Logan listens to the accusations with a stoic and unreadable expression on his face. A sudden, sharp talk sounds as Logan places a firm hand over Hilda's and offers an apology. Hilda offers a deal. If Freddie apologizes to Logan, she will apologize to Freddie, but Tarina refuses. She insists the events are related because Freddie attacked Logan specifically because he was angry at Hilda. Tarina is appalled by the suggestion that her son should bow to someone of a lower rank. A cold and calculated smile spreads across the lower half of the Duchess's face. The group remains seated at the dinner table as the social tension continues to escalate. Hilda narrows her eyes, confirming her suspicions about the woman sitting across from her. Narrative text reveals that Tarina is hiding behind her looks and is deeply committed to classist ideals. Tarina warns Hilda that she must choose her allies very carefully in this house.
A carriage travels through the woods as Tarina warns that upcoming family members will be even less welcoming.
Hilda asks if the Duchess is inviting her to switch sides, catching Tarina off guard with her bluntness.
Hilda asks for permission to speak with total honesty, and Tarina gives her the floor.
Hilda boldly claims that Tarina actually wants Logan on her side rather than having any interest in Hilda.
Logan remains silent as the conversation shifts to focus on his own role in the house.
A close-up of Tarina's eye accompanies the thought that Hilda's assessment of the situation is correct. Freddie looks on with a confused and annoyed expression while Hilda notes his lack of social talent. Tarina leans her chin on her hands and finds the entire interaction to be quite amusing. After leaving, Hilda rants about the Duchess's behavior while Logan warns her to lower her voice. A quick, sharp talk sounding as Logan stops her, advising her to learn how nobles use words to gauge others. Hilda questions why they cannot be more direct, but Logan explains that noble etiquette requires subtle communication. A frustrated, chibi-style Hilda feels overwhelmed by how twisted everyone's social behavior seems to be. Hilda points directly at Logan, demanding that he finally choose to be on her side. She insists that he should start being completely straightforward with her from now on. Logan asks if Hilda would really prefer it if Duchess Tarina spoke to her in such a blunt manner. Outside the manor at night, a loud cry of denial echoes through the air. Hilda rejects the idea of being used to reach Logan, while he notes her strong distaste for being an intermediary. She is furious about Tarina wanting to use Logan, making him realize how much she truly worries for him. Hilda claims Logan is hers and only she should use him, leaving him surprised by her choice of words. Logan admits he never expected Hilda would think about using him in such a way. A starstruck Hilda finds Logan's perplexed expression to be incredibly handsome and cool. She is appalled that Tarina would dare to consider using a man like Logan for her own ends. Hilda sits down and loudly complains about her strong personal dislike for the boy named Freddie. She vows to pull out all of Freddie's hair if he ever tries to strike her again. Logan warns Hilda that creating an enemy out of Lady Tarina will only lead to further trouble. Hilda acknowledges the warning with a look of silent, focused determination. Back at dinner, Tarina admits that Hilda's bold personality might be something the Duke would actually accept. Tarina tells Hilda to be more thoughtful and refuses to bargain while Logan is sitting right there. She suggests that they both move past the anger and misunderstandings that occurred earlier in the day. The Duchess warns that the Duke hearing about their conflict would lead to an unpleasant outcome for everyone. Tarina offers a polite yet sharp congratulations to Miss Hilda Arpeggio on officially joining the family. Abstract lines heighten attention. Hilda asks Logan how he would have responded, and he explains he would have simply glossed over everything. Hilda is frustrated by the constant need to hide their true intentions during a simple conversation.
Logan explains the advantage of keeping one's cards hidden from an enemy during social maneuvering.
Narrative text notes that in the ongoing conversation between Hilda and Tarina, Logan has become the most valuable card to play.
Logan advises Hilda to use him as a way to lead the conversation in a direction that favors her.
Hilda wonders if she should do that even if it makes her angry, which Logan fails to understand.
She explains she is upset because Logan is a person and an intimate one at that. Blooming roses fill a frame. Logan and Hilda exchange confused looks as she realizes her choice of words was quite peculiar. Logan asks why he would be considered intimate, leaving Hilda feeling completely embarrassed by her own statement.
Hilda reflects on her slip of the tongue and the strange weight the word has taken on.
She hides her face in shame, worrying that she has made the atmosphere incredibly awkward. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding at the door.
Hilda welcomes the maid as her savior, grateful to be rescued from the embarrassing quagmire of discussing intimacy.
Hilda looks on with quiet butt.
The maid enters carrying a small black and white dog named Wuffy, who looks very well fed and pampered.
The little dog sleeps peacefully. Hilda tells Wuffy to wake up, while Logan is glad the dog isn't sleep-talking in a human language.
Hilda begins poking and shaking the sleepy dog to get his attention. Wuffy suddenly snaps awake and complains about being handled so roughly by unfamiliar human hands.
Hilda retorts that his complaints are unconvincing given how shiny and healthy his fur looks as he barks. She reminds the familiar that she didn't send him away just to enjoy himself and relax.
Wuffy is offended, asking Hilda if she thinks he is nothing more than a mere errand boy while swatting her hand. Hilda points out that he is a familiar, but Wuffy insists he is far too powerful for undignified tasks.
Hilda looms over the little dog, bluntly telling him that he has been no help at all.
Logan watches the argument with a sweat drop, finding the whole interaction quite bizarre. Hilda points out she does all the magic while he just adjusts it, but Wuffy blames her poor fundamentals. Sensing his master's rising anger, Wuffy quickly claims that he actually has some very useful information to share.
Wuffy is being washed by servants while he reflects on the news that another Arpeggio family member is arriving tonight.
Logan observes that the household staff must have realized something was amiss the moment Lady Tarina departed.
Wuffy explains that he is being scrubbed so thoroughly because a visiting member of a count family is allergic to animal fur. The little dog undergoes a rigorous grooming session involving aromatherapy that leaves his fur shining brightly.
Hilda tells Wuffy that she has heard enough about his spa treatments and is uninterested in his new scent.
Hilda wonders if the upcoming visitor is Claire Arpeggio, a high-ranking member of the family. A soft blue gradient marks a transition in the conversation.
Logan explains that Claire is Lady Lucia's younger sister and possesses the strongest mana among the Arpeggios, leading her to believe she should inherit the duchy.
Hilda asks why Claire is not yet married, to which Logan replies that she has become a countess in her own right.
Text clarifies that the woman remains unmarried despite her noble standing.
Hilda watches Wuffy flatter Logan and decides she must avoid standing out or doing anything to earn Claire's enmity.
When asked about Claire's personality, Logan describes her as a straightforward woman who views the world in black and white.
Hilda asks Logan if he is the type of person Claire likes, but he simply states he is a servant who only follows the Duke's orders.
Chibi-style Hilda realizes that Logan is exactly the type of person Claire would dislike.
Wuffy mentions that he has overheard another unsettling piece of information from the servants. The familiar reveals that the household staff is preparing for a formal dinner to be held tomorrow.
Hilda asks what could possibly be wrong with the family hosting a formal dinner.
Logan clarifies that this is specifically a formal family dinner, which carries much more weight. Outside the manor, Hilda remains confused by the significance of the event as Logan continues his explanation.
Logan explains that these dinners are usually reserved for holidays, making the sudden scheduling highly suspicious.
Hilda agrees that the dinner is likely a trap rather than a genuine welcome for her. Logan warns her that the family probably intends to humiliate her, though Hilda struggles to see how a meal could be dangerous. Logan tests her knowledge by asking if she knows how many forks are used during a formal dinner. He continues the interrogation by asking her to identify the correct wine pairings for fish and meat dishes.
Hilda asks if she can simply drink whatever is served to her, looking increasingly overwhelmed by the rules.
Logan stares at her in silence as the gravity of her lack of etiquette sinks in.
Hilda boldly suggests that Logan should sit next to her during the meal to prevent her from making any mistakes.
Wuffy asks Hilda if she actually listened to anything Logan just explained to her.
Wuffy howls that Logan cannot join her at the table, while Hilda feels judged by the little dog's disapproval.
A soft gulp sounding as Hilda swallows nervously.
Hilda asks what her next move should be, and Logan promises to teach her everything she needs to know by the end of the day.
Hilda realizes with a heavy heart that she will not be getting any sleep tonight.
As the sun sets on the manor, Hilda laments having to relearn basic dining etiquette at her age.
Hilda's purple eye widens in shock as she contemplates the difficult training ahead.
Narrative text reveals that a formal Arpeggio family dinner consists of 7 distinct courses. Logan and Hilda sit across from each other at a long table as the etiquette lesson begins in earnest. The various dishes are listed, ranging from soup and fish to salad, poultry, and dessert.
Logan explains that utensils must be used in order from the outside in based on their placement.
Achibi Hilde nods determinedly as Logan instructs her to leave used utensils on her plate rather than on the table.
A visual guide shows the proper way to rest a fork and knife on a plate after finishing a course.
Logan explains that she must wait for the Duke to signal the start of the meal before she begins eating.
Hilda confidently declares that she has successfully memorized all the rules he laid out.
Logan reminds her to be extremely careful not to make any noise while eating her soup.
A slurp sounding as Hilda eats, thinking that even Logan's manner of eating soup is remarkably fashionable.
A quick chk sounding as Hilda adjusts her posture and sits up perfectly straight.
Surrounded by blooming roses, Hilda feels quite impressive as she practices her new skills.
Logan points out that she has made a mistake by finishing the entire bowl of soup.
He instructs her to only eat a third of the dish and take twice as long to finish it, much to her surprise.
Hilda recalls her past as a commoner where leaving food was considered a grave insult to the chef.
Logan warns that a large appetite is looked down upon for a noblewoman and will be used as an excuse to belittle her.
Hilda is indignant, questioning if having a healthy appetite is actually a problem.
Logan notes that the restrictive nature of formal attire will make digestion nearly impossible.
Staring at a corset, Hilda is horrified to learn that proper etiquette requires even more uncomfortable clothing.
She begins to suspect that noble etiquette is just a competitive display of sheer absurdity.
Logan moves the lesson forward, challenging her to demonstrate how she would eat a simple roll.
Hilda takes up a knife and prepares to slice into the bread.
She pauses in confusion, unable to find the butter despite Logan's insistence that it's right there.
With a precise tap, Logan opens a hidden silver dish to reveal the butter stored inside.
Hilda is momentarily awestruck by the fancy gadget, prompting Logan to critique her unrefined vocabulary. She struggles to manipulate the butter knife correctly under his watchful eye.
Logan leans in close to guide her hand, explaining that she must use the edge of the blade.
Feeling his breath on her neck as he adjusts her posture, Hilda's face flushes a deep shade of crimson.
Overwhelmed by the proximity, she suddenly stops breathing, forcing a panicked Logan to check on her.
Hilda pulls away abruptly, her heart racing as she questions why he would get so close.
Logan kneels before her in concern, unaware that his handsome features are the source of her distress.
Hilda realizes that while his closeness is terrifying, she secretly finds it absolutely intoxicating.
Logan places a steady hand on her forehead to check for a fever, making her heart hammer even harder.
She stares at his hand, screaming internally about how unfairly handsome he is.
Scuttling away to the corner of the room, she loudly blames his good looks for her inability to function.
Logan can only stare in baffled silence at her sudden, high-energy outburst.
Surrounded by blooming roses, he offers a soft, sincere apology for making her feel uncomfortable. Hilda tries to regain her composure, admitting he was the reason she was flustered, but begging him not to read into it. She catches a glimpse of his gentle expression and finds herself lost in his handsomesome once more.
Both of them succumb to a moment of deep embarrassment as the tension lingers in the air. Hilda snaps at him for thanking her, finding his polite reaction to her insult completely illogical.
She squeezes her eyes shut in shame, wishing she could disappear from the awkward scene.
A memory of her mother surfaces, recalling her advice to always act shameless when caught in an embarrassing spot.
She decides to take the advice to heart, realizing that showing weakness only gives others power.
Bolting upright, Hilda strikes a dramatic, commanding pose as if her frantic behavior was entirely intentional.
She tosses her hair back, convincing herself that she has successfully mimicked the grace of a noble lady.
Logan remains on the floor, watching her bizarre transformation with a giant question mark over his head.
Hilda makes a swift, dignified exit from the room, leaving her training session behind.
Wafi remains fast asleep on his cushion, blissfully unaware of the chaos that just unfolded.
A firm hand grips the door handle as the scene shifts toward the main event.
Logan watches her go, his cheeks dusted with a faint, lingering blush.
Reflecting on the lesson, Hilda wonders why her heart is still fluttering so wildly from the skin contact.
She can't stop thinking about the strength and warmth of Logan's hands as he guided her. His calm, focused face continues to haunt her thoughts as the evening approaches. Now dressed in an elegant white gown, Hilda prepares to face the family at the formal dinner.
The grand dining hall is filled with the Arpeggio family gathered around a lavishly set table.
Ortiz Arpeggio makes a thinly veiled job at Hilda's background, suggesting she isn't accustomed to such fine dining. Hilda identifies the woman as the wife of the eldest son, recognizing the blatant hostility in her tone. She observes their son Timo, who seems focused only on his meal as the adults bicker.
Text identifies the man beside Ortiz as Fior Arpeggio, the eldest son and a key player in the family.
Countess Claire Arpeggio sits nearby, projecting an aura of cold, aristocratic superiority.
Logan's previous warning echoes in her mind, detailing the mannerless Fior and the powerful, ambitious Claire. Claire watches Hilda with a smirk, assuming the girl's hesitation is due to a lack of proper upbringing.
Hilda feels the weight of the room's judgment, realizing Claire is actively trying to humiliate her. The sound of a knife clattering against a plate punctuates the heavy silence of the meal.
Fior suddenly turns the attention toward Hilda, asking her to choose the wine for the next course.
Fior asks Hilda if she possesses any prior knowledge regarding the selection of wines.
Hilda smiles confidently and confirms that she does indeed have such knowledge.
Hilda dabs her face with a napkin, realizing that Fior's request for a formal dinner was a calculated move.
Hilda suggests pairing the meal with a red wine from the Colred region. Fior laughs mockingly at the suggestion of serving red wine alongside a fish dish. Hilda offers a sharp, knowing side-eye as she prepares to explain her reasoning. Hilda explains that the cellar's white wines are oak-aged, which would create an unpleasant, overly fishy flavor when paired with the meal. Hilda notes that today's dish is trout and argues that the high acidity of the Colred red wine makes it a superior pairing.
Hilda mentally credits Logan for teaching her the pairings and the chef for providing the menu in advance.
A sharp tsk sounding as Fior reacts with visible frustration while the white-haired Duke eats in silence.
Claire smirks as she notes that only those who lack real understanding mindlessly repeat the white wine with fish roll. Chibi Fior is visibly annoyed while Chibi Hilda claims she learned nothing of value regarding wine from her mother. Hilda questions if all nobles are as ignorant as they seem, causing Ortiz to stifle a laugh while Timo looks on.
Fior quickly pivots to the topic of magic, mentioning the significant mana Hilda inherited from her mother, Lucia.
Hilda proudly declares that her powerful mana is the ultimate proof of her arpeggio bloodline.
The Duke watches her with intense, glowing purple eyes as he questions the truth of her statement. A sudden, sharp talk sounding as the Duke demands to see the extent of her magical abilities. Fior challenges her to demonstrate her fire magic, but Hilda argues it would be impolite to do so during a meal. Hilda worries internally that she lacks the confidence to perform magic on command in such a hostile environment.
Hilda reflects on her inability to control her fire without Wafi's help, while the little dog boasts of his own importance.
Hilda attempts to delay the demonstration, asking the Duke to allow it at a more appropriate time. Claire interjects, questioning if another opportunity to convince the entire family at once will ever occur. The Duke remains firm, stating he wishes to see the progress she has made during her lessons with the Viscount. Hilda gestures defensively, asking if her survival at the Night Mansion wasn't enough to prove her worth. A Chibi Hilda prays that her act of bravado is enough to sway the opinions of the people around her.
The Duke dismisses her concerns, suggesting there is no harm in seeking his family's formal approval.
Hilda offers a nervous laugh, claiming her skills are still far too unrefined for a public display.
Fior sneers and finds her sudden hesitation deeply amusing.
Fior insults her heritage, claiming she is nothing more than a common gardener's bloodline if her mana is taken away. Claire mocks Hilda's violent temperament and expresses hope that her skills are poor enough to justify her exclusion from the family.
Hilda stands amidst a dark, thorny garden, realizing that absolutely no one in this room is on her side.
A thought bubble recalls Logan's stern warning not to cause any chaos during the formal meal. In a memory, Woofy questions if Hilda can handle this crisis with her limited training, while she demands more trust from her familiar.
Woofy compares her lack of progress to the black-haired Logan, which Hilda finds deeply insulting and harsh.
Hilda insists she is confident in her ability to handle the dinner as Logan watches her closely.
Logan looks away in silent disapproval, prompting an indignant Hilda to demand an explanation for his reaction.
Logan warns her that he doesn't expect much and simply wants her to remember her objectives for the evening.
Hilda asks if her main goal is simply to avoid causing any trouble or issues.
Logan confirms the objective, but Hilda believes this is the perfect opportunity to earn the Duke's true acknowledgement. Logan dismisses her ambition, but Hilda remains stubborn and frustrated by his lack of faith in her. Hilda asks what Logan will do if she actually succeeds in earning points from the Duke. Logan promises to grant her any wish she desires as an award for her success. The grand chandelier glows brightly over the tense and hostile atmosphere of the dining hall.
A loud tuck sounding as Hilda slams her hand onto the table, finally choosing to trust her magic skills over her etiquette.
Overwhelmed by rage and abhorrence, Hilda decides she has finally had enough of the family's relentless insults. Hilda's frustration boils over as she reflects on the wasted food, the word-twisting nobles, and her suffocating corset.
A sudden, sharp jerk sounding as Hilda's hand twitches with an uncontrollable surge of magical energy.
Hilda's eyes widen with a fierce determination as she feels a powerful sensation rising within her.
A massive blue magic circle erupts behind Hilda as she prepares to unleash the full extent of her power.
The family is frozen in shock as Hilda stands and points aggressively toward the table during her outburst.
Hilda senses that her magical execution felt incorrect.
Hilda observes her hand while questioning the result of her spell.
Timo shouts in terror as he notices the blue fire on Fior's head.
A sudden loud scream sounding as blue flames erupt across Fior's scalp.
Hilda panics while searching for a way to douse the fire.
Fior begs for someone to save him from the burning sensation.
Fior demands that the magical fire be extinguished immediately.
Hilda admits that she hasn't learned the counterspell to stop the flames. A desperate cry sounding as Fior continues to burn and panic. Claire remains perfectly composed while sipping her wine during the crisis. A sudden sharp talk sounding as a finger snaps to activate magic. Hilda watches in surprise as the atmosphere in the room shifts. Claire summons a swirling ring of water imager. Delicate water bubbles begin to drift across the dining table.
A massive sphere of water hovers menacingly above the room.
A second sharp talk sounding as Claire directs the water toward the fire. Fior screams in shock as the water douses his head.
Fior gasps and coughs while collapsing onto the floor.
Ortiz and Timo rush to help the wet and balding man.
Claire dismissively brushes her hands off as if finishing a tour.
Hilde hopes that the ordeal is over now that Fior is safe.
Fior glares at the girl with intense, tearful rage, a furious shout sounding as Fior focuses his anger on Hilde.
Fior accuses the girl of a calculated attempt on his life. Fior lunges forward while threatening to kill the unrefined girl. The Duke remains unmoved by Fior's demands for the girl's punishment. Fior asks if the Duke witnessed the intentional jock. The Duke insults Fior by comparing his weak magic to Hilda's talent. The Duke calls out to Hilda to get her attention. The Duke praises her magical display as very impressive. The Duke notes the unfortunate lack of control over her power. Hilda vows to work harder to master her magical abilities. The Duke offers to grant any wish she desires as a reward. Hilda realizes that this is a pivotal opportunity to gain power. Hilda contemplates the immense value of the Duke's offered remark. Hilda asks if she can save her wish for a later time.
Hilda explains that she needs time to consider such a rare chance.
A short, amused ha sounding as the Duke laughs at her cleverness. Text details the Arpeggio family's status as one of the Grand Duchies.
The Duke is presented in his formal, highly decorated military uniform.
Visuals of maps and weaponry emphasize the Duke's vast political power.
The Duke confirms that he can grant her anything in the world.
Hilda celebrates her successful manipulation of the situation.
The Duke notes the girl's striking resemblance to her mother, Lucy.
Hilda is baffled by the constant and mysterious comparison. Hilda questions if being compared to her mother is an insult. Hilda calls out to the Countess following the end of dinner. Claire pauses to acknowledge the girl's presence. Hilda offers a sincere apology for the chaotic meal. Claire dismisses the apology, stating that Fior deserved his own punishment. Claire mentions having a question for the girl as they stand together after the meal.
Claire looks down at the blonde girl and asks if she feels a sense of hatred toward her.
Claire questions if she is obligated to like her, while Hilda asks if the tension stems from her being Lucia's daughter. Hilda notes that Claire shares many traits with her mother, which Claire dismisses as obvious since they were sisters. Hilda highlights that they both possess the same water magic attributes within their powers. Floating water bubbles drift through the air from the woman's magical touch.
Visuals of the two blonde women emphasize that their deep connection goes far beyond simple shared parentage.
Claire asks Hilda to confirm the rumors about her physical altercation with Freddie. Claire smirks and labels Hilda's behavior a desperate ruse to secure a powerful ally in the house.
A sudden, sharp tap sounding as Claire walks away, declaring her intense hatred for Lucia.
Claire leans in close and coldly states that she could never like the daughter of someone she despised. Hilda realizes that Claire is a blunt woman who speaks nothing but the truth. Claire asks to be informed of the Duke's reward, curious about what the girl will choose to request. A quiet, shimmering transition follows the intense confrontation in the Grand Hall. Hilda slumps over a storage box, feeling completely drained and exhausted by the corset and the dinner. A memory of Logan surfaces, reminding her of the pain of living among enemies without any allies. Hilda wonders why the black-haired man's warnings are suddenly echoing in her mind. The massive mansion stands tall and silent under the oppressive cover of night.
Hilda wanders through the dimly lit room alone, surrounded by the shadows of the estate.
A sudden, sharp creak sounding as a heavy door is pushed open. Hilda stops in her tracks with a look of pure surprise on her face. Logan is found reclining on a sofa, seemingly asleep with an open book in his lap. The girl remains still, watching the sleeping figure in the quiet moonlight. Hilda slowly and cautiously approaches the man resting on the plush furniture. Hilda notes that the man fell asleep reading and is human enough to actually need rest.
A sudden soft rustle sounding as the fabric of her dress shifts on the floor.
A long, tired sigh sounding as Hilda looks down at the black-haired man. Logan suddenly sits up and reveals he woke up the second she entered the room, startling her. Logan asks for an update on how the formal dinner went for her.
Logan claims he won their bet, but Hilda insists the Duke was satisfied and promised her a reward.
A sudden soft puff sounding as Hilda turns away in a stubborn pout. Logan asks why she seems so drained if she succeeded, and Hilda admits she feels universally hated.
Small fish swim peacefully within a glowing aquarium in the corner of the room. Logan reminds her that he warned her she wouldn't be welcomed, and Hilda quietly agrees. A close-up of Hilda's eyes reveals a deep, unexpected feeling of heartbreak. Logan stands beside the girl as she stares off in a moment of quiet vulnerability. A sudden, soft squeeze sounding as Logan places a hand over the girl's small fingers. Outside the mansion, speech bubbles reflect the staff's shock at the Duke mentioning a successor. Maids gossip in the halls about Hilda's legal right to the Arpeggio line through her mother. The servants debate whether the position will go to the eldest son or the influential young Master Freddie. Some believe the Duke prefers Claire for the role due to her impressive achievements. The little dog Woofy hides behind a pillar to listen to the staff's private conversations. Chibi Woofy explains that he is reporting exactly what the maids were discussing. Hilda slams her hands on the table, furious that her massive mana isn't enough to prove her worthiness. Woofy demands his promised reward for spying, while Hilda reluctantly acknowledges her debt to him.
Woofy begins to cry over a plate of cookies that he claims have become stale and unappetizing.
Visions of decadent pastries appear as Woofy describes a famous downtown shop known for its sweets.
Wuffy agrees to accept the cookies just this once, while Hilde considers him a very demanding familiar.
A sudden rhythmic crunch sounding as Woofy happily devours the cookies on the plate.
The brown-haired man observes that since she's gossiping, her main problems must be solved.
Hilda insists she finished the work long ago, but Logan scolds her for not bringing the documents immediately and accuses her of playing around.
A sudden, sharp talk sounding as Hilda slams the papers onto the table, explaining she was only trying not to bother him while he looked so busy.
Hilda asks Logan what he is studying so intently, and he reveals that it is an official reply from the Imperial family. The message is revealed to be a formal permission letter that finally allows Hilda to be officially added to the Arpeggio family registry.
Hilda is shocked by the news of her official status, though Logan clarifies she was already in Arpeggio once the Duke publicly announced it.
Logan informs the girl that with the Imperial letter's arrival, she will be required to attend a debutante ball next spring.
Logan insists that Hilda must thoroughly study noble culture and speech before the ball to ensure she appears refined to the public.
Hilda argues that she is fine as she is, but Logan scolds her for using inappropriate slang in her written answers on her schoolwork. A sudden sharp talk sounding as Logan tops the desk, telling Hilda to stop comparing herself to others and focus on becoming more graceful than anyone else. Hilda clutches her head in deep frustration, complaining that Logan is starting his relentless nagging all over again.
Logan continues his lecture, noting that Hilda is fundamentally different from the other people she is trying to emulate.
Hilda's mood shifts to curiosity as she notices a second stock of documents that also appear to have arrived from the Imperial Palace.
Logan explains that the palace wishes to further discuss an ongoing issue, likely regarding the sale of a specific property.
Hilda looks suspicious as she questions if the Imperial family is simply refusing to sell the mansion they are discussing. A sudden sharp talk sounding as Hilda slams the table, while Logan explains the mansion's symbolic value and the Crown Prince's lack of mana.
A magical diagram visualizes Logan's explanation about how some people would criticize the Imperial family for selling their sacred legacy.
Logan warns that the weak must never show a single fault, causing Hilda to scream out in annoyance at his constant lecturing. A sudden soft twalk sounding as Logan turns away from the conversation and reaches for a drawer in his desk.
Hilda demands to know what he wants now as he prepares to pull a large, heavy wooden chest out into the open.
Hilda is stunned to see the chest filled with gold coins, which Logan explains is her budget for maintaining her elegance until the end of summer.
Hilda stares at her reflection in the piles of gold and asks whose money it is, to which Logan confirms it all belongs to her.
Hilda asks for clarification if the entire fortune is hers, and Logan confirms that every coin is for her personal use. Hilda celebrates the massive amount of kina she now possesses, concluding that this wealth is exactly why one should want to be a noble. Logan sighs and reminds her that the money is strictly for purchasing high-quality clothes and jewels to decorate herself properly.
Chibi Hilde wonders if the blunt Duke gifted her the money, imagining the old man secretly acting like an adorable, doting grandfather.
Logan reveals that he purchased all of her previous clothes with his own money, leaving Hilda absolutely speechless with shock. Logan explains he felt his initial preparations were lacking since she was forced to borrow Freddy's clothes on her first day at the mansion. Hilda is flustered by the realization of how much money he must have spent on her expensive noble dresses and accessories. Logan looks at the girl calmly and asks if she truly believed he didn't have that much money to spend on her.
Hilda realizes that as of his count, Logan is quite wealthy, and she feels a mix of deep gratitude and guilt for his kindness.
Hilda watches silently as Logan walks away, her expression reflecting her complicated feelings of being both thankful and sorry. Hilda remains lost in thought, realizing she is always thankful for Logan's support, but sorry for the burden she might be. A sudden, sharp click sounding as Logan reaches for a door handle to head out into the hallway. A sudden, soft swah sounding as a breeze blows past Logan, who looks toward the open window with a gentle, contemplative smile. Hilda stands amidst falling cherry blossoms, looking bright and determined as she prepares for the day ahead. Hilda excitedly calls out to Logan, asking him to spend an entire day with her as her personal guide.
Logan considers her request to be a tour guide, but admits to himself that he doesn't actually know much about the city.
Logan concludes that there is only one logical way for him to handle a situation where he lacks information.
Instead of sleeping, Logan stays up late in a massive library, surrounded by stacks of books and lit candles. He determines to spend the night gathering information on the city's history, landmarks, geography, and the best local restaurants.
Logan reflects on Hilda's natural confidence and freedom, wondering if someone like him can ever truly understand her life.
Logan admits that preparing so much feels almost meaningless when compared to the girl's spontaneous and vibrant nature. A vision of Hilde running happily through a vast green valley underscores Logan's thoughts about her untamed and free spirit. Logan stares intently through his spectacles, lost in deep thought as he finishes his night of research. A sudden rhythmic thud sounding as footsteps echo through the dark and quiet hallways of the grand mansion.
A voice from the shadows asks Logan if he is really planning on going out with the girl the following day.
Logan stops to acknowledge Sir Fior, who stands in the middle of the hallway with a suspicious and mocking expression.
Logan notes that Fior is wearing a tall hat to hide the damage from the fire incident that occurred during their last family dinner.
Fior sneers and claims that the Duke is being reckless by allowing a fool like Hilda to leave the safety of the mansion.
Logan looks at the man coldly and defends the girl, stating that Hilde possesses significant knowledge and ability that hasn't been shown yet.
Sir Fior questions Logan's dedication to the difficult task of transforming a girl of unknown origin into a proper noble lady. He suggests the training is far too daunting and offers very little in the way of a meaningful reward for such effort. Logan states he only follows orders without regard for personal gain, prompting Fior to mockingly praise his unwavering and selfless loyalty. Sir Fior leans in close to ask how much longer Logan intends to play the part of a watchdog for his father. He questions Logan's true allegiance to the Arpeggio name while staring intently at the stoic, black-haired man.
A sinister smile plays on the man's face as he advises Logan to broaden his perspective on the family's shifting dynamics.
Fior's purple eye gleams with hidden intent as the conversation reaches a tense and quiet conclusion. While Fior considers potential successors in the family portrait, the bearded elder remains firm that the ultimate decision is not his to make. A sudden soft swah sounding as Fior notes that the Duke seems to value Logan's humble opinions despite his position. A sudden rhythmic thud sounding as the two men walk in opposite directions, their brief and biting confrontation finally ending.
The sky turns a soft pink behind the grand mansion as a new day of preparation begins for the residents inside.
Maids gather in a lavish dressing room to begin preparing Hilde for her much-anticipated outing with the Viscount. The energetic maids urge the blonde girl to put her complete trust in their professional styling expertise for the big day. Hilda looks at her reflection and asks why they are making such a massive effort for a simple trip into the city. The maids insist the makeover is mandatory because this outing marks her very first public appearance as an official family member. Hilda considers their point and decides that looking her best for once might actually be a fun and worthwhile experience. A maid presents a pair of elegant, shimmering pink shoes that are specifically designed to stand out and sparkle. A sudden, sharp whoop sounding as Hilde braces herself while the maids pull her corset as tight as they possibly can. The maids apply a final dusting of shimmering powder to her skin to ensure she glows under the bright mansion lights. Through the large windows, the busy servants can be seen fussing over the final touches of Hilda's grand and sudden transformation. Close-up details reveal the exquisite red jewelry and delicate lace chosen to complete her stunning and expensive ensemble. Hilda stands fully dressed in a breathtaking ruffled gown, looking every bit like a high-born and refined noble daughter. One of the maids gasps in genuine awe, completely overwhelmed by how beautiful the young girl has become. They joke that she no longer resembles a simple country girl, acknowledging her full transformation into a true ducal lady. Hilda suspects their playful banter contains a bit of hidden criticism about her previous and less refined appearance. Despite the teasing, a small smile touches her lips as she realizes she is actually quite happy in this moment. She reflects on how rare and precious these moments of lighthearted laughter and genuine acceptance with the staff truly are. Hilda wonders what perfume Logan wears and suggests the maids ask the servants who handle his personal laundry for details.
A maid reveals a surprising and private detail about the Viscount's habits as they continue their lighthearted conversation.
Hilda's eyes widen in shock at the news that the wealthy Viscount has no personal servants helping him with his daily needs. The maid explains that Logan insists on cleaning his own room, making Hilde wonder if he has a secret phobia of germs. She clutches the fabric of her dress, questioning why a man who keeps everyone at a distance acts so differently with her. Visions of Logan's gentle touches and constant proximity flash through her mind as she ponders his true feelings and intentions. Hilda is overcome with a sudden and intense blush, covering her face as her heart begins to race at the thought. A sudden rhythmic talk sounding as a knock at the door pulls Hilda out of her deep and confusing thoughts.
A maid cheerfully announces that Viscount Strauss is already waiting for her in the living room for their planned date.
A sudden soft swah sounding as Hilda gathers her heavy skirts and prepares to finally step out of the room.
She steps out into the hallway, fueled by the nervous hope that Logan will be truly impressed by her new look. Bright morning sunlight fills the opulent room where the Viscount is currently standing and waiting for her arrival. A sudden rhythmic twalk sounding as Hilda's heels click against the floor as she slowly approaches her quiet companion. She wears a look of bright anticipation, her eyes shining as she searches for the brown-haired man across the room. Logan is found standing alone by the window, his arms crossed as he stares out at the vast mansion grounds. He looks deeply contemplative and still hasn't noticed that the girl has entered the large and silent living space.
A sudden, sharp click sounding as the latch of the large wooden door secures behind her, sealing them in the room.
Hilda pauses for a moment, letting the sunlight catch the intricate gold and pink details of her flowing white gown.
She softly calls out Logan's name to get his attention, her voice echoing gently in the quiet and sunlit space. Logan begins to adjust his glasses as he starts to turn toward the direction of the soft and familiar voice. He shields his eyes for a moment as if blinded by the radiant sight of the girl standing in the light. Logan finally turns and looks directly at her, his usual stoic expression softening into a silent and stunned gaze. Hilda smiles radiantly and asks if she looks weird or if she is finally pretty enough for their day together. Logan looks at the girl with a soft, blushing expression.
He says she looks wonderful, but the outfit isn't suitable for sightseeing.
The pair shares a brief silent moment. Logan suddenly turns to leave, promising he will be right back. Hilda wonders if her elaborate gown was perhaps too much.
The maids tell her to trust their styling expertise. Hilda remembers their hard work and feels deeply appreciative.
A sudden, sharp click sounding as the latch finally opens.
Logan returns and suggests she wear more comfortable shoes for walking.
He presents white flats, noting her current ones weren't his gift.
Hilda protests as the black-haired man prepares to help her. He explains that changing shoes is difficult in such a dress.
Logan tells her it is all right and asks to raise her skirts.
Hilda feels deeply embarrassed by the man's bold, direct actions.
A quiet moment of reflection passes between them. Logan kneels quietly, focused entirely on helping the young girl.
Hilda asks if he is always this polite to everyone.
The black-haired man looks up at her with steady eyes. Logan offers a small smile and gives a simple negative response.
Hilda is visibly stunned by his quiet, personal admission.
A voice inside the carriage mutters about the shameful situation.
Sir Wuffy complains about the humans putting a bonnet on him. Hilda suspects the creature doesn't actually hate the cute accessory.
She is astonished by the massive crowds in the city. Chibi Hilde is confused by the lock of roses.
Logan quizzes the girl on the Arpeggio family coat of arms.
Hilda experiences a sudden and meaningful realization. She explains the square's name while reflecting on her journey.
Hilda reflects on entering the grand world of the Arpeggios.
A sudden rhythmic talk sounding as the carriage wheels turn. A voice asks if they are ready to concede.
Logan assists the blonde girl as they arrive at their destination.
The coachman waves, promising to return for them in the evening.
A sudden soft sniff sounding as the dog catches a scent. Hilda asks if something is wrong while Wuffy smells mal.
Logan identifies a nearby weapon store as the likely source.
Hilda teases Wuffy's dog nose, though he insists he's a wolf.
Sir Wuffy shouts his corrections while Logan notes the sound spell. Hilde asks if they are going to the famous pastry shop.
A sudden rhythmic talk sounding as Wuffy leads the way.
Logan sighs at the thought of starting with sweets.
Sir Wuffy tells the black-haired man to be silent about history. Hilda giggles at the bickering, finding the dynamic quite funny.
She suspects Logan will actually enjoy the trip the most.
Hilda asks the staff what the Viscount actually likes.
She guesses he prefers academic study, but feels quite uncertain.
Dorothy admits that even she has no idea about his likes.
Hilda ponders if he truly lacks any personal hobbies.
She considers, then dismisses the possibility he likes gold and jewels. The chef laughs, telling them that they don't know anything.
A sudden sharp talk sounding as Hilda slams her hands on the table and asks the chef if he knows anything about the Viscount's preferences.
The chef confidently claims he has managed the Viscount's meals for years, while the maid Dorothy agrees with his expertise.
Hilda looks up with wide purple eyes and asks specifically what kind of food Logan enjoys the most.
The chef wears a knowing and mischievous smile as he prepares to reveal the secret of the Viscount's palate. A sudden rhythmic thud sounding as the scene shifts to a bright floral balcony overlooking the grand mansion grounds.
The maids gather by the large glass doors to watch the private tea party from a respectful distance.
A sudden rhythmic clink sounding as the staff serves an array of delicate pastries and tea to Logan and Hilde on the balcony.
A sudden rhythmic clink sounding as a plate featuring a fresh slice of lemon is placed before the brown-haired man.
The narrative notes that Logan maintains an indifferent expression as a fresh cup of steaming tea is poured for him. A close-up reveals a perfectly glazed chocolate pudding topped with nuts and a small chocolate heart. Hilde looks at the tray of nuts, cherries, and cookies, questioning if the rumors about his tastes are actually true. The blonde girl invites Logan to try the snacks as they sit together in the bright morning light. Hilde offers a plate of cookies to Wuffy, who is still wearing his floral pink bodice. A sudden, sharp poke sounding as the Viscount uses a small silver fork to take a bite of the dessert.
Logan brings the small piece of food to his mouth, his expression remaining calm and unreadable. Hilda watches him with intense anticipation, her eyes shimmering as she waits for his reaction to the sweets.
A sudden rhythmic swish sounding as Wuffy wags his tail and shouts that the flavor is a masterpiece, while Hilde asks Logan for his opinion.
A sudden soft swish sounding as Logan dabs his mouth with a white napkin after finishing his sample.
Hilda stares in stunned silence as she realizes the chef's information was perfectly accurate. A bold declaration confirms that the chef was telling the truth about the Viscount's hidden preferences.
The chef poses triumphantly in his kitchen, satisfied that his knowledge of the master's habits has been proven correct.
Logan appears surrounded by a radiant and floral aura as he continues to eat the sweets with quiet enjoyment.
The scene shifts briefly to the green leaves of the mansion gardens under a clear blue sky.
Hilda leans on her hand and admits she never suspected that a man like Logan would actually enjoy sweets.
Logan begins to cough in sudden embarrassment while Hilde wonders if his love of sugar was supposed to be a secret. The brown-haired man wipes his face and admits he didn't realize he was eating so enthusiastically while Hilde looks on in confusion.
A sudden rhythmic tolk sounding as Hilde nervously tops her spoon and explains she only knew because the chef told her.
Logan asks why she thinks it is weird for a man to like sweets, but Hilda insists she finds it completely normal.
Chibi Hilde explains that gender doesn't dictate taste and mentions her own love for alcohol before telling him to keep eating.
A sudden soft swish sounding as Hilde serves a slice of strawberry cake and asks Logan what else he enjoys in life. Logan looks thoughtful and admits he isn't entirely sure what his other personal interests might be.
Hilda encourages him to speak up, insisting that it doesn't matter if his answer is something simple or small.
The brown-haired man remains silent for a long moment, deeply considering her question.
Hilda watches him intently, wondering why such a simple question requires so much deep thought.
The blonde girl is visibly confused when Logan suddenly mentions compliments as something he genuinely likes.
Logan explains that he values recognition from others because it makes him feel that his hard work has been worth the effort.
Hilda is surprised, noting that someone as talented as him must have spent his entire life being praised by everyone.
Visions of Logan's past reveal him studying, sword fighting, and practicing magic, all driven by the desire to earn those compliments.
Logan looks at her with a gentle expression, his posture relaxed as he shares this personal revelation. He suddenly tells Hilda that as his master, she should be working harder to earn compliments herself, prompting her to protest. A sudden soft pat sounding as the plump dog calls Hilda an ugly duckling and warns she needs to gain influence to survive. A sudden soft slurp sounding as Wuffy licks his paw and mockingly asks if she even has a plan for her future. Hilda slumps in her chair, blushing deeply as she realizes the small creature's harsh words are actually quite accurate. She lets out a heavy sigh, reflecting on how she has mostly just caused trouble since her arrival at the mansion. Logan reaches across the table to take her hands, gently reassuring her that she is already putting in more than enough effort. Hilda looks up with a soft blush and shimmering eyes, clearly moved by his unexpected and kind encouragement. She smiles warmly, realizing that she always feels much happier whenever she receives a genuine compliment from Logan.
The pair walks through the city streets framed by red roses, carrying a bag of fresh pastries while Logan holds the dog.
Hilda remembers the chef and Dorothy with a happy smile as she reflects on the success of their outing. They stop in front of a boutique window to look at the elegant dresses, enjoying a moment of peaceful companionship together. Logan and Hilda spend a quiet evening reading together. Hilda sighs while resting comfortably inside the carriage. Logan asks if she found the day's outing satisfactory.
The pair happily agrees the city visit was delightful.
Wuffy reflects on how much human cities have changed.
A sudden rhythmic talk sounding as the carrot riss. A sudden rhythmic dulk rung sounding as Hildy screams a.
Logan checks if Lady Hild is uninjured after the jolt.
Logan prepares to investigate while Hilde remains safely inside.
Hilda insists Logan take Wuffy along for his protection.
A sudden sharp talk sounding as Logan exits the carriage.
Hilda waits in silence, praying for Logan's safe return.
A horrific scream echoes through the dark wooded path. Hilda trembles, relieved the scream did not belong to Logan.
The blonde girl decides she must check on Logan.
A sudden rhythmic dulk rung sounding as Logan blocks the exit. Hilda is chilled by the dark, grim atmosphere outside.
A massive wolf pins an attacker and scolds their folly. Logan covers Hilda's eyes to shield her from gore. Hilda glimpses the coachman lying dead in a pool of blood.
The girl asks Logan if the attacker was a bandit.
Wuffy towers over the victim while questioning their true motives. Logan shouts for Sir Wuffy to stop his brutal assault. Hilda suspects she was the assassin's intended target. The girl wonders why someone would target her specifically. Hilda ponders why someone would go to such extremes. The snarling wolf prepares to deliver a final, fatal blow. The pinned man screams out in absolute terror. A sudden, soft talk sounding as Logan reaches for Hilda. Hilda commands Wuffy to spare the man for questioning. The giant wolf remains poised over the captured prisoner. Hilda declares they must find out who is pulling the frings. The scene shifts to a quiet house nestled in trees. A man sits alone in a dark, dusty room. The blonde man, Timo, waits impatiently for a status report.
Hilda yells for Wuffy to stop his pursuit.
The massive wolf growls as Hilde urges for restraint. An attacker flees in terror from the giant beast. Wuffy towers over Hild and argues against showing mercy.
Hilda insists on finding the person who ordered this.
A blood-stained cloak lies abandoned on the muddy ground. Wuffy grumbles about humans trying to solve issues complicatedly. The wolf reflects on the death of the innocent coachman. A sudden sharp talk sounding as the wolf steps forward. Small Wuffy sprints toward the source of the sat. Moonlight shines over the roof of the target's cabin.
A sudden soft k sounding as a door opens.
An older man in a hat confronts the startled Timo. The father demands to know what Timo is doing here. A sudden soft keek sounding as the door closes.
The blonde man screams in agony inside the dusty room.
The father asks what happened while the blonde man claims a monster appeared. The older man is visibly shaken by the mention of a monster. Timo describes the terrifying height of the beast before another sharp cry of can. The father intensely demands to know the exact location of the creature. The blonde man points toward the hill road leading to the ducal mansion. The older man acknowledges the information with a grim, knowing look. A sudden sharp crack sounding as the father strikes Timo, who yells out.
A sudden sharp talk sounding as a hand tightly grips a sword hilt.
The father delivers a heavy slap while calling his son an A. The older man insults Timo's intelligence and asks if his mother conceived this plan. Timo denies his mother's involvement as his father demands to know the true mastermind.
The father aggressively demands answers while Timo mentions that Madame Tarina was involved. The older man continues to berate Timo for his absolute lack of thought.
Timo argues that Hilda made a fool of his father and is seeking the grandfather's favor. The father shouts in disbelief that Timo would seek help from Tarina and promise to kill the girl himself.
The blonde man explains that Tarina offered him a professional to handle the task.
The father scoffs, noting that a real professional would have died rather than return injured.
Outside, the small dog listens as the father continues calling his son a moron.
Wolfie watches from the shadows as the father predicts Timo will become a scapegoat.
The blonde man asks for their next move while his father inquires who else knows. The older man notes it is fortunate that only Tarina is aware of the scheme.
The father warns that Hilda must stay alive for Timo to survive. The man laments being forced into this mess while the blonde son apologizes. Timo mentions the reported monster again, leaving his father momentarily confused. The older man concludes that the girl must be concealing a secret.
Back at the carriage, Logan asks Hilda if she is okay. Logan asks Hilda if she is okay, and she admits to feeling sick.
The girl realizes that someone from her own family must be the mastermind. Logan suggests they wait for Wuffy to return with more information. A sudden, sharp tulk sounding as a hidden attacker moves near the carriage wheel. Logan yells for Hilda to get down as he is struck, and she falls with a cry. Hilda screams for Logan as another assassin suddenly emerges from the darkness.
A series of sharp clang sounds ring out as Hilde cries out for Logan in the pitch black.
Logan duels a black-clad assassin in the middle of the dark forest. The brown-haired man curses as he struggles against the weight of the enemy's blade.
Hilda watches with mounting fear, realizing Logan is in a very dangerous position.
The blonde girl successfully channels her magic, causing the entire area to glow with blue light.
She urgently scans the woods to find the location of the hidden assassin.
Hilda screams in horror as the attacker lunges at Logan from the trees. The girl raises her hand, focusing a surge of magical power. The assassin is momentarily stunned by the sudden display of magic. Hilda unleashes a powerful blast of blue energy toward the startled attacker. Logan calls out to her in shock as the assassin screams in pain. The attacker begs for the magic flames to be put out while Hilde celebrates her success. Hilda gasps for breath, feeling as though her heart is about to burst from the strain. The burning assassin vows to kill her while she stares back in confusion. The blonde girl questions if she will ever be able to use her magic again. She gathers the absolute last of her power into a final magical orb. The horse and carriage stand alone on the quiet, foggy road.
Logan asks if she is unhurt, and Hilda trembles while apologizing for her reaction to the attack.
Logan tells Hilda she doesn't need to apologize. It's natural to be in shock.
Logan uses his teeth to tighten the bandage on his injured arm.
Hilda expresses her guilt because he thought hurt.
Hilda says hearing his kind words makes her feel much better.
Hilda reflects on how her magic felt strange this time compared to before. Logan agrees, noting that the power of her spell was incredibly intense. Hilda explains she was so afraid for Logan's life that her fear turned into anger. She describes her fury at the assassin surviving while others were hurt as her eyes glow with magical fire. Logan suggests that her overwhelming emotions caused her magical power to surge suddenly. Logan reassures her that they are alive thanks to her, so she shouldn't feel guilty.
Logan looks at her with concern, wondering how he can help her feel there.
Hilda calls out Logan's name.
Hilda asks how they will return, given the state of their transportation.
A sudden soft rattle sounding as debris falls from the burnt carriage.
A sudden rhythmic trot sounding as the pair shares a horse.
Hilda says she wants to talk here where no one can overhear them.
Hilda declares her new ambition to lead the arpeggio family.
Logan is baffled, asking if she came to the duchy for a quiet, easy life.
Hilda argues that since she is already a target, she might as well aim for the top.
A sudden, sharp talk sounding as Logan pulls the reins and questions her resolve.
Hilda asks why Logan wouldn't agree if he just follows orders.
Hilda smiles brightly, announcing her goal to become the Duchess of Arpeggio.
Logan gazes at her, clearly moved or deep in thought. A sudden rhythmic trot sounding as they reach the mansion gates at night. A sudden, sharp bang sounding as Dorothy opens the doors in a panic. Dorothy cries out about how worried she was for their safety. Hilda explains they were attacked by bandits, and Dorothy gaffes at her messy state. Hilda sticks to their cover story, crediting Logan with saving her life. Hilda informs the staff that the coachman was killed and needs to be recovered. Logan downplays the fight as he reports the coachman's death. Hilda explains their lie about being mistaken for wealthy merchants. The butler urges Logan to get treated for his injuries in his room. A sudden rhythmic tap sounding as Hilda follows a maid upstairs.
Hilda agrees to go to her room for now. Hilda spots her relatives watching from the balcony above.
Hilda stares back with a hard look, vowing to uncover the truth.
The scene shifts as someone asks who the mastermind was.
Wuffy looks up at Logan and Hilde, ready to reveal his findings.
Wuffy identifies the perpetrator as Timo Arpeggio. A sudden sharp quang sounding as Hilda slams the table in shock.
Hilda finds it hard to believe that the seemingly harmless Timo was responsible.
A sudden soft shh sounding as Logan tells her to keep her voice down.
Hilda wonders if the order came from Timo's father, Fior. She wonders if this was retaliation for cutting Fior's hair.
Wuffy clarifies that Fior was unaware, as he discovered through eavesdropping.
Wuffy reveals that Fior tried to stop his son and that there is another mastermind.
Logan asks if the person behind everything is Madame Terita, a sudden, soft murmur sounding as Hilda asks why Terena and Timo would collude.
Logan reasons that Timo was influenced by someone stronger. Logan concludes that Terena likely planned to use the incident to eliminate both rivals.
Hilda clenches her hand on the table while pondering the meaning of the phrase both sides.
The blonde girl realizes that the mastermind intended to target both her and Fior.
The small dog pats Hilda's hand, noting that Fior said the same to his son, though the dog initially thought the boy was a fool for his hired hair-flailing antics.
Hilda looks troubled as she realizes Timo was a pawn for Terena and that she narrowly avoided her own grave.
Logan agrees with her assessment, while Hilda wonders why so many people are eager for her demise.
The blonde girl facepalms and exhausts her. Hilda dreams of eliminating her rivals, though she knows she cannot make too many enemies while vying for the title of Duchess.
Her purple eyes glow with a mischievous light as she wonders which enemy to target first.
Moonlight bathes the Grand Arpeggio mansion. Logan asks if she intends to weaponize the incident against her rival, and Hilda confirms her plan with a cold gaze.
The brown-haired man worries about their lack of evidence if the perpetrator feigns ignorance.
Hilda offers a small, knowing smirk.
A sudden, soft bloom sounding as Hilda declares that evidence isn't necessary.
She sits tall, explaining that they simply need to manufacture a convincing testimony.
The pair continues their secret meeting through the ornate window frame.
The blonde girl stands up to leave.
Hilda collapses onto her pillow, sighing about the length of her day.
The family crest is surrounded by bloody fawns.
A sudden, sharp splat sounding as blood stains the topic of title succession. Lying in the dark, Hilda questions how her life reached this complicated point.
She reflects on her original goal for a quiet life versus her new ambition to lead the household, feeling her confidence waver.
She tosses and turns restlessly in bed.
A sudden, soft whoosh sounding as the wind rattles the dark windows.
The girl stares into the darkness, her nerves frayed by the sound of the wind.
A sudden, sharp bolt sounding as Hilda sits up in terror, imagining assassins and clutching her pillow for comfort.
Her eyes go wide at a sudden sound. She notices light under her door and fears an assassin is lurking near her sleeping maid, Dorothy.
A sudden, soft swish sounding as she prepares to cast a spell for defense.
Hilda sits frozen in bed as someone calls her name from the shadows.
Logan's voice asks if she is finally asleep.
Hilda is surprised to see Logan outside her door with a candle, recalling his own warnings about the impropriety of men entering a maiden's room.
She is baffled as Logan begins to walk away without even knocking.
A sudden, rhythmic pat sounding as Hildy sprints across the floor. A sudden, sharp bang sounding as Hilda bursts through the door, yelling that she is wide awake.
Logan looks down in confusion, asking what happened to her slippers, making Hilda realize she is barefoot.
She internally screams, reminding herself to act with noble poise despite the embarrassment.
Standing in the candlelit hall, she asks if he has news, but he admits he was only checking on her.
Hilda explains her restlessness while Logan bluntly tells her to go back to sleep.
Hilda is stunned by the simple interaction as the scene shifts to a comedic style.
Chibi Hilde argues with Logan, who insists that getting enough rest is a vital noble duty.
Hilda scoffs at the idea of sleeping being a duty while Logan hides a smirk behind his candle.
A sudden, sharp whisk sounding as Hilda is caught off guard. Logan sweeps her off her feet in a princess carry, scolding her for walking barefoot in the cold hall.
He looks at her with soft eyes, explaining he is only doing this to ensure she doesn't get hurt.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding as Logan tucks her back into bed while she thanks him awkwardly. He places a gentle hand on her forehead, promising to stay by her side until she drifts off.
Hilda watches him, wondering if this kindness is an order from her grandfather or his own choice.
She reaches out tentatively, asking if she can be greedy and hold his hand until she falls asleep.
A sudden, soft grip sounding as their hands intertwine in the moonlight.
Hilda gazes up at Logan, finding unexpected comfort in his presence.
Logan remains silent as he watches the blonde girl process the news.
Narrative text reflects on how Logan almost died as a child, fearing that assassins would strike if he ever fell asleep.
Hilda thinks back to her own childhood, recalling how she lay awake fearing the monsters lurking in the shadows of her bedroom.
The girl wonders if the brown-haired man was also alone and terrified when he was young, with no one to hold his hand.
Logan reassures her that no one came to kill him in the end, so she should sleep without worry under his protection.
Hilda feels a wave of relief having someone she trusts by her side, thinking that she must secure his loyalty permanently if she becomes Duchess.
The blonde girl finally drifts into a peaceful sleep while Logan keeps his word and stays beside her.
A sudden, soft grip sounding as their hands remain intertwined throughout the quiet night.
A new day begins as Hilda places her hand against the window, looking out at the clear blue sky.
A sudden, soft click sounding as the girl opens the balcony doors to let in the morning light.
White clouds drift across the bright horizon, signaling a fresh start for the household.
Hilda prepares herself for the day, ready to put her new ambitions into action.
Looking determined and elegant, the blonde girl prepares to outmaneuver her rivals within the duchy. Logan and Hilde meet secretly in a grand room to discuss their next move against their enemies.
Hilda proposes using sound magic from their previous lesson to record voices, but Logan asks if she means recording magic.
Logan explains that recording magic is possible, though the incantation required is quite complex.
The blonde girl presents a clever new idea to the group.
Hilda suggests they manufacture a magical recording of Madame Tarina naming Timo as the culprit to use as evidence.
Logan points out the difficulty of the plan, noting that Tarina is unlikely to confess so easily.
Hilda suggests they record individual words and piece them together, but Logan clarifies that the magic can only record sound as is, not edit it.
The girl is surprised to learn that no incantation exists for editing recorded voices.
Undeterred, Hilda boldly suggests that they simply create a new editing incantation themselves.
Hilda invites Madame Tarina for tea in the greenhouse, politely thanking her for accepting the invitation.
The two women share a pleasant moment in the sunlit garden, with Hilda expressing a desire to spend more time together.
A sudden, soft sip sounding as they both enjoy the aromatic tea.
Tarina mentions the scary incident from a few days ago and says she is glad to see the girl is unhurt.
Hilda offers her thanks to the older woman for her apparent concern.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding as Tarina leans in to ask if the bandits have been apprehended yet. Hilda realizes that the older woman has asked exactly what she was hoping for.
In a comedic exchange, Hilda explains the corpse was too badly burned to identify, and Tarina laments the recent increase in dangerous bandits.
Hilda agrees that the heavens protected her while a bright butterfly flutters through the greenhouse. A sudden soft clink sounding as Hilda sips her tea, pleased that everything is going according to her plan.
Blue butterflies dance among the flowers in the vibrant mansion garden.
Looking into her tea, Hilda describes her father as a handsome gardener.
Hilda asks if Tarina knew her father, since he supposedly worked at the estate in the past.
Tarina claims she never met Hilda's parents, but Hilda continues to praise her father's good looks and height.
The blonde girl slyly compares her father's tall stature to that of Fior's son. A mental diagram highlights the two rivals, identifying Fior's son as Timo and Tarina's son as Freddy. Hilda intentionally misnames the boy as Freddy, prompting Tarina to quickly correct her by saying the name Timo. A sudden soft hum sounding as the magical circles in Hilda's locket captured the necessary testimony.
Hilda laughs off her mistake about the names, while Tarina warns her that such rude behavior could cause problems.
A sudden soft snicker sounding as
Tarina thinks to herself that Hilda's happiness will soon end, while the blonde girl responds with a confident smile.
As the sun sets, Hilda asks Logan to explain the mechanics of the sound reproduction magic. A sudden sharp whisk sounding as Waffy the small dog fetches a pen and paper for the lesson. A sudden soft thud sounding as the writing materials land on the ornate desk. Logan begins writing out the spell while Hilda expresses her gratitude to the helpful dog.
Hilda looks over the long document and asks Logan why so much extra text is included in the spell.
The blonde girl argues that removing the flowery language would make the incantation much more efficient and shorter.
Logan sweats slightly as he explains that the spell's actual performance depends on the beauty and politeness of the incantation. Logan continues writing while the black and white dog confirms that their plan aligns with the master's previous assessment. An intricate magical circle glows with runes, illustrating how magic serves as a polite request to the world itself. A sudden rhythmic talk sounding as Logan finishes the complex incantation while Hilda asks if the work is finally done.
The brown-haired man offers a gentle, confident smile as he confirms the success of his task.
Hilda enthusiastically encourages Logan to test the new magic, leaving the small dog looking quite startled.
Purple energy pulses from the locket as Logan activates the spell over the parchment.
Waffy watches closely, noting that the magic is operating exactly as Logan intended.
The blonde girl watches in awe as a massive, glowing magic circle materializes before her. Translucent lines of recorded speech fill the air, and while Logan worries about the tedious editing process, Hilda scoffs at the many unnecessary words.
Looking determined, the blonde girl wonders if the task of reorganizing the magic will be truly difficult.
The small dog explains that this feat requires more than just raw power. It demands a deep understanding of the world's underlying language.
Hilda reaches out toward the floating runes, resolved to attempt the manipulation herself. With a confident gesture, she begins physically erasing the magical symbols that she deems redundant. Waffy starts to mock the idea that such a complex task could be so simple, his tail wagging skeptically.
Logan's eyes go wide with pure shock as he witnesses the girl's unexpected proficiency.
The blonde girl is surprised by her own ease of success as the magical lines begin to shift and reform at her command. A sudden, sharp swish sounding as Logan reaches out in a panic, warning her that her reckless manipulation of the runes is dangerous. A sudden, rhythmic polyak sounding as Hilda jumps for joy amidst the swirling magic, asking if the process is really as simple as erasing what she doesn't need.
Hilda pauses in her celebration, looking confused as she asks what the others are so worried about.
The black and white dog stares at her with awestruck, starry eyes, declaring that her magical power is beyond anything he has ever seen. Surrounded by falling petals, Hilda notices Logan's proud smile and feels a deepening sense of mutual trust.
The locket glows atop a sea of magical circles as Hilda internally celebrates securing the fake testimony they need.
Narrative text explains that the final step is finding the right moment to use the evidence against Timo.
Moonlight filters through the tall windows and red curtains of the silent mansion.
Watching from the shadows, Hilda observes that while her rivals are wary, Fior and Timo remain inseparable, making a solo confrontation difficult.
Under the night sky, the blonde man and the boy in the hut walk close together, reinforcing their alliance. The girl realizes she must wait for a moment when the boy is left entirely on his own. Sunlight sparkles off a tiered fountain in the lush green estate gardens.
Dressed in an elegant red gown and holding a parasol, Hilda is shocked when Logan informs her that Sir Fior is leaving the mansion the following day.
She feels a bit foolish for spending the whole night spying when she could have just consulted Logan for the information.
Logan details the itinerary, noting that their rival will be visiting a baron's family and won't return until the day after next.
Hilda is impressed by his thorough knowledge, jokingly asking if he has the ability to see into the future. Logan chuckles and explains his information comes from simple social intelligence regarding a billiard gathering Fior would never miss.
Hilda is baffled by the idea of someone being so obsessed with the game that they would leave their post. Over a table laden with tea and sweets, Logan explains that such gatherings are vital for nobles to network and gather secrets under the guise of friendship.
A sudden sharp snap sounding as Hilda realizes this is the opening she has been waiting for. Hilda wonders if Timo will go along, but Logan clarifies that Fior's reputation for extravagance makes him unlikely to pay the extra entrance fees.
Chibi Hilda is outraged by the concept of entrance fees for social events, while Chibi Logan explains it is a common noble practice.
The blonde girl is disgusted by the frivolous way nobles find excuses to spend their vast wealth.
As they walk, Logan notes that this coincidence works perfectly in their favor, and Hilda firmly agrees.
Hilda catches a suspicious grin on Logan's face and begins to suspect there is more to this coincidence than he is letting on.
Watching Logan walk away into the bright garden, Hilda reflects on how his behavior has become increasingly calculated.
Her eyes widen as the pieces fall into place.
She realizes that Logan likely engineered the entire billiard gathering behind the scenes just to create this opportunity for her.
Logan looks back with a smug, knowing smile, telling her that he has prepared everything and the rest is up to her.
A sudden soft swish sounding as Hilda waves her hand dismissively, telling him not to worry about the next phase.
Radiating confidence under her parasol, the blonde girl laughs and declares that she is a true expert when it comes to threatening her enemies.
The next morning, a grand green carriage departs the estate, confirming that Fior has left just as Logan predicted. Watching from a high window, Hilda notes that their rival clearly values his social life more than the safety of his own son. A sudden, rhythmic tot-tack sounding as Hilda stands tall in the hall, ready to confront the blonde man now that he is finally alone. Hilda reflects that the rival man failed to warn his son about meeting her alone. The blonde girl approaches her target, pleased that the situation is unfolding perfectly.
The blonde boy looks down on her, calling her an uneducated wench who lacks proper manners.
A sudden, soft snicker sounding.
A sudden soft click sounding as Hilda questions why he thinks she would come looking for him.
The boy demands a humiliating apology for the incident involving his father's hair.
With glowing purple eyes, the blonde girl flatly accuses the boy of trying to kill her.
A sudden sharp twitch sounding as the boy's hand flinches in surprise. Panicking, the boy demands to know if she has any actual evidence against him. Hilda points out that his immediate worry about evidence is a clear admission of guilt.
The blonde girl notes with cold certainty that he truly committed the crime.
A sudden soft swish sounding as the boy shouts for her to stop lying while she reaches for her locket.
Hilda tells him he will see the truth for himself if he simply waits a moment.
A sudden rhythmic hum sounding as a massive magical circle erupts around them.
The locket projects Tarina's voice, mentioning a scary incident that happened a few days prior.
A sudden sharp shiver sounding as the boy recognizes the older woman's voice coming from the locket.
Hilda speaks his name with a calm and menacing intensity. She admits to learning complex magic solely to threaten him, mockingly questioning if she should be grateful.
The magical reproduction clearly plays the woman's voice, naming the boy as the culprit.
Hilda thinks to herself that the boy is too terrified to notice the audio has been edited.
A sudden, soft thud sounding as the boy collapses onto the floor in total despair.
The blonde boy cries out in a desperate attempt to deny his involvement. A sudden, soft rustle sounding as the girl adjusts the necklace containing his doom. Hilda leans in and asks how he thinks the Duke will react to this testimony.
The boy clings to her dress and begs for mercy, realizing his life is effectively over.
Hilda asks why she should spare him while he continues to wail that he is innocent.
The blonde girl slyly asks if he truly believes the older woman only gave a verbal statement.
She claims the woman promised to testify against him in person before the high-ranking noble.
Breaking completely, the boy shouts that the older woman was the one who ordered the hit.
He realizes the older woman is planning to use him as a scapegoat to save herself.
A sudden, sharp tap sounding as she reaches out toward the broken boy. A sudden, soft thud sounding as the blonde girl stands over the kneeling youth. Hilda addresses the boy by his full name, asking if he thought she was truly ignorant of the truth. The boy looks up at her with a face full of confusion and horror.
A sudden soft snicker sounding as she grins down at her trembling enemy.
Hilda laughs and asks why such a woman would ever testify for her so easily.
The blonde girl reveals that she did indeed have a meeting with the older woman. The boy is baffled by how she could have discovered the secret alliance so quickly.
Hilda looks him in the eye and declares that she has known everything from the start. She explains that he was merely a puppet being manipulated to take the fall for a mastermind.
Clenching his fist on the floor, the boy asks how she could possibly know so much.
Hilda credits her success to her adorable and talented puppy who sniffed out the truth.
A sudden soft swish sounding as the girl turns her back on him to walk away.
A sudden rhythmic click sounding as she warns him that the Duke treats family-targeted crimes severely.
The boy desperately calls out to her as she moves toward the exit.
A sudden soft tap sounding as Hilda pauses and offers him a single chance to save himself.
A sudden, soft scratch sounding as she promises to destroy the evidence in exchange for a full confession.
The boy realizes that his former ally is truly evil and has no intention of protecting him. Hilda reaches out and states that she has no desire to side with someone as cunning as that woman.
A mental scale shows that given the choice, Hilda would prefer to align with the boy and his father. With a determined look in her purple eyes, Hilda commands the blonde man to make his choice. Hilda looms over the seated man, holding out the paper and repeating her demand for him to choose his next move.
A green carriage stands ready outside as the scene shifts back to their confrontation. A sudden rhythmic click sounding as the girl approaches her target with steady confidence.
Sir Fior looks completely baffled. Turning her back on him, Hilda dismissively states that she has no interest in wasting her time sharing tea with someone like him.
A sudden sharp snap sounding as Hilda waves the document, mocking his pride and asking if he'll change his tone once he sees what she's holding.
The blonde man's face contorts with horror as he realizes the magnitude of the evidence he is now holding.
A sudden, sharp crunch sounding as Fior's hand tightens into a fist, violently crumpling the paper in his grasp.
Hilda mockingly questions if he plans to destroy it, reminding him that she was smart enough to place a protective spell on the document beforehand.
A sudden, soft thud sounding as the ruined paper falls uselessly to the floor.
Standing over him with her arms crossed, Hilda asks the blonde man once more if he would like to reconsider having tea with her.
The garden is peaceful today.
A sudden soft munch sounding as Hilda takes a casual bite of a cookie.
Hilda questions his ultimate goal.
Fior counters that if her goal was truly to ruin him, she should have shown the paper to Tarina or the Duke, suggesting that her approach is actually an invitation to negotiate.
Hilda internally praises Logan's foresight regarding Fior's sharp wit, while the blonde man claims that the Duke would never turn against his own son over such a matter.
Sipping her tea, Hilda reflects on the reality that the Duke would likely prioritize his heir's position over her personal safety.
She knows that if she causes a public scandal, the Duke will only criticize her for creating unnecessary trouble.
Hilda maintains a calm expression.
A sudden, sharp tap sounding as Fior slams his cup down in a fit of rage.
The blonde man surges to his feet, shouting that she shouldn't dare think so highly of herself.
Hilda remains seated and calm, warning him that it won't be her who ruins him, but rather Madame Tarina. Fior insists that Tarina was his partner in this game, but Hilda points out that while she has the boy's confession, there is no proof against the woman, who will likely frame the boy to save herself.
The blonde man narrows his eyes, suspecting that this calculated plan was actually orchestrated by Logan.
Hilda laughs at his anger. Hilda mockingly asks why Logan would go to such lengths for her, reminding Fior that he himself once called Logan the Duke's most trusted and capable aide.
Hilda prepares her next demand. Hilda looks up from the table and states that her first requirement is for him to finally show her some basic respect.
She demands that he stop using insults and address her properly by her full name, Hilda Arpeggio. Fior looks away, conceding that such a small request is not difficult to fulfill as long as she doesn't expect to be treated like family.
She reveals her second condition.
Chibi Hilde points out that she specifically mentioned it was only the first demand, while Chibi Fior reluctantly agrees to listen to the rest.
Hilda demands that he organize a formal tea party to introduce her to the other nobles with the highest level of politeness and formality.
Sweets cover the entire table.
Fior questions the strange demand.
She recalls Logan's previous advice.
In a memory, Hilde leans over Logan's desk, surprising the black-haired man with her sudden presence.
She questions why she should waste the power of a confession just to ask for a simple tea party. Logan explains that a tea party is a vital social tool for building authority and establishing a network of information among the nobility. He notes that a sudden claim of loyalty or trust would never be believed by someone as cautious as Fior.
A sudden, long sigh sounding as Hilde slumps over the desk, lamenting how much effort it took to secure the evidence.
Logan softly reminds her that earning genuine trust from people is an even more difficult task.
A sudden soft tap sounding as Logan tells her that success comes from taking measured, steady steps toward her goal.
He looks her in the eye and encourages her to handle things one step at a time to ensure her eventual victory. Hilda finds his words inspiring. Back in the present, the blonde man repeats her request for a tea party back to him. The two remain in negotiation.
Narrative text explains that as the eldest son, Fior possesses the authority to grant her the social standing she needs.
The introduction to society begins.
Hilda internally observes that Fior, ignorant of her true intentions, will likely underestimate her request compared to the leverage she holds.
Fior conceded with a sigh and agreed to her terms while Hilde offered a satisfied smile. The scene shifts to the quiet, towering pillars of the Grand Ducal Library. Logan and Hilde sit across from each other at a long table, accompanied by a small black puppy. Looking at a scroll of magical symbols, the puppy enthusiastically praises Logan for being a natural at creating incantations.
The puppy asks when she will stop staring at her book, while Hilda wonders why she is studying so hard before sunrise.
Adjusting his glasses with a smile, Logan asks if she is exhausted, which only serves to annoy the tired girl.
Chibi Hilda grumpily thinks that since it is so early in the morning, the man should really be showing some restraint.
Hilda admits she had much to worry about regarding the incident with Fior and Timo, lamenting that she didn't even get a day to rest.
Logan notes that Sir Timo will soon be leaving the ducal mansion because of the incident, prompting Hilde to ask where he's going. Logan explains that the boy is likely being sent to a southern boarding school to keep him safe from the beasts.
Chibi Logan clarifies that the beasts in question are Madame Tarina and Lady Hild, much to Hild's shock. Hilda protests that phrasing it that way makes her sound as evil as Tarina, but Logan points out that from a victim's perspective, they are quite similar. A sudden, sharp tap sounding as Hilda slams the table, arguing that she only made the boy cry, whereas Tarina actually tried to kill her.
The puppy interrupts the small talk and commands its master to focus on her studies.
Hilda insists she is working on it, though she internally admits that just looking at the book makes her feel dizzy. Hilda suddenly claps her hands together as she remembers a very important detail. Logan looks confused as she mentions a reward, while the puppy tisks at her lack of focus.
She recalls the family dinner where her magic moved the Duke so much that he promised her a single request.
Logan asks what she is planning to request from him.
Hilda wears a devious, knowing smile as she prepares to state her demand.
The scene shifts to Duke Arpeggio, who looks surprised as he asks if she truly wants him to grant her a knight.
Hilda stands tall in the Duke's study and confirms she wants someone dedicated solely to her protection inside.
The Duke asks if this request is motivated by the bandit attack she suffered not long ago.
Turning his back, the Duke notes that Viscount Strauss is a capable swordsman and asks if his protection is considered inadequate. Hilda quickly clarifies that she only survived that day because of Sir Strauss's help.
The Duke turns back and mockingly asks if she is so weak and lacking in confidence that she still demands a personal guardian.
He dismissively claims that a mere thing like her isn't worth protecting, as only greedy bandits would even bother with her for a few coins. Hilda's eyes narrow in fury as she internally curses the arrogant Arpeggio name. She fumes that he has no idea that she was actually targeted by assassins sent by his own wife, not just random bandits. Hilda tells him to go ahead and finish his thought.
The Duke continues to question if there is any real difference or if she is just hoping for a guard.
Hilda declares that what she really wants is someone who can teach her how to wield a sword, leaving the Duke baffled by her desire for swordsmanship.
A sudden, sharp tap sounding as someone shifts their weight on the polished floor.
Seating himself, the Duke calls her request nonsense and asks what a noble lady could possibly gain or brag about by learning the sword.
Hilda argues that she would at least become the most skilled swordsman among all noble ladies, but the Duke remains unconvinced.
She points to the family crest and declares that as a lady of Arpeggio, she should be #1 in regards to the sword. A sudden rhythmic click sounding as Hilda paces the room, asking if she should waste her time on embroidery like other ladies, or if her family is bound by lowly rules. Hilda leans in with sparkling determination, challenging the Duke's worldview. The Duke looks at her with a heavy, unreadable expression and addresses her directly. A massive spectral white tiger looms behind the Duke as he accuses her of testing him with only a small amount of magic as her backing.
Chibi Hilda trembles and tells herself to keep her head straight while stating that she doesn't trust in her magic, but something else.
Placing her hand on her heart, Hilda states that she is actually relying on the Duke's own authority. The Duke stares down at the small girl standing before him. Hilda confidently predicts that once she begins to learn the sword, all the other ladies of society will follow her lead. A tense, silent moment passes between the two as they lock eyes. Hilda's face lights up with joy as she realizes she has succeeded.
Hilda begins to thank him, but the scene suddenly shifts back to the present, where a servant has entered the room.
The blonde girl looks toward the butler who has come to a denture.
Chibi Hilde bows to the butler, internally relieved that she survived the intense battle of nerves and successfully persuaded Duke Arpeggio.
Clasping her hands over her heart, Hilda wonders what sort of knight will come to her and if he will ultimately join her side. Perched high upon a thick tree branch, a mysterious man with greenish-blue hair sits with his back turned to the garden. Hilda looks down at her bare, mud-stained feet and reflects on how she feels she has nowhere left to go. Standing alone in the vast, sunny garden, the blonde girl wonders if she should have been more patient with her situation.
Hilda reflects on how Logan is notoriously cheap with his compliments, yet he remains her only true ally in the ducal mansion.
Looking down at the open books on the desk, Hilde questions if Logan is focusing too much on the final outcome rather than the process itself.
Holding a paper covered in red correction marks, the brown-haired man coldly states that the process is meaningless if the results are not perfect.
Frustrated by his high standards, Hilda shouts that not everyone can be as perfect as he is and reminds him that she is just a normal person.
Standing over the desk, Hilda asks Logan to look at the things she is actually good at, but he dismissively suggests she request a different teacher if she wants easy compliments.
Pointing a finger at the stoic man, Hilda declares that Logan fails as an educator and calls him a meanie.
Gritting her teeth in anger, Hilda's white high-heeled shoe suddenly slips as she turns to storm away from the desk.
Hilda walks away barefoot while holding her shoes, prompting Logan to shout that she mustn't go around the mansion without footwear. Logan's voice echoes through the grand, ornate hallway as he warns her that walking barefoot is dangerous. A chibi version of Hilda wonders if her outburst was simply a result of study stress and considers if she should be the one to apologize first.
The blonde girl quickly changes her mind, crossing her arms and stubbornly deciding that she will definitely not apologize first this time.
Hilda imagines Logan as a winged demon with horns and decides that from now on she will refer to him as the nagging demon king.
Standing on the wooden walkway in the garden, Hilda cups her hands and screams at the top of her lungs that Logan Strauss is a nagging demon king. Feeling refreshed after her outburst, Hilda skips through the garden with a satisfied smile.
The blonde girl suddenly stops and breaks into a cold sweat as she hears an unexpected sound from above. Hidden among the leaves of a large tree, a man begins to laugh hysterically at her public insult. Sitting on a branch, the blue-haired man repeats Hilda's insult back to her while laughing heartily.
A sudden, loud wah sounding as the man loses his balance and falls from the tree, causing Hilda to scream in terror.
Hilda covers her mouth in shock, staring wide-eyed at the spot where the man plummeted to the ground.
Looking up at the high branches, the girl panics and wonders if the man could have survived such a significant fall.
Hilda looks down at the blue-haired man as he groans in pain while lying flat on the garden grass.
The stranger suddenly sits up and continues to laugh wildly, rolling around on the grass while repeating her nagging Demon King insult. Staring at the rolling man with a deadpan expression, Hilda internally questions what kind of crazy person she has just encountered.
Back inside the study, Logan's hand reaches down to pick something up from the floor.
The gray-haired butler stands in the doorway and asks Logan what he is doing.
Logan stands up, revealing that he is holding the white high-heeled shoes Hilda left behind. Adjusting to the butler's presence, Logan notes that the doors were left open and asks why the older man has come to see him.
The butler explains that a servant from the Rakan family has arrived with an urgent inquiry. The butler describes how the panicked servant was searching for their third young master, who reportedly disappeared without a trace on his way to the mansion. Logan looks thoughtful as he realizes the identity of the missing Rakan family member.
Narrative text explains that Ilya Rakan is known as the black sheep of high society, possessing an unpredictable nature that is the exact opposite of Logan's. Ilya is described as a man who was kicked out of the Royal Knight Order within 6 months because he lacked the personality to follow anyone's lead.
Logan points out that a fully grown man should be able to find his own way home, but the butler notes that the man's intended destination was this mansion.
Crossing his arms, Logan wonders what such a rebellious person could possibly want at the ducal mansion.
A look of realization and dread crosses Logan's face as he begins to suspect the worst.
Hilda suddenly sprints down the hallway, screaming for Logan and claiming that a crazy man is chasing her. Logan watches with a weary, sweating expression as the blonde girl rushes toward him for protection.
A flustered Hild frantically explains that a weird guy fell out of a tree and snuck into the mansion.
Logan and the butler share a silent, knowing look before Logan slowly nods in resignation.
Closing his eyes, Logan lets out an exhausted sigh and places a hand on his forehead.
Hilda grabs Logan's sleeve and begs him to do something quickly about the intruder.
A sudden, heavy thump sounding as a man in dark boots steps into the room.
Ilya Rakan leans against the doorway and laughs, telling the lady that she is quite fast. Chibi Hilda is shown looking like a confused chipmunk holding an acorn as Ilya compares her wit and cuteness to the small animal.
The blue-haired man winks and smiles, explaining that he only ran after her because she started to flee just as he was going to speak to her in the garden.
Hilda cowers behind Logan and points a trembling finger at Ilya, screaming for him to go away and stay back.
Hilda clings to Logan's sleeve and begs him to do something about the blue-haired intruder.
Hilda points at Ilya and claims his eyes make him look crazy, but he calmly asserts he is perfectly normal and clear-headed.
Ilya smiles brightly and tells Hilda that he knew the moment he heard her voice, leaving her looking shocked and flustered.
Surrounded by blooming white flowers, Ilya takes a gallant kneeling pose while looking composed.
A sudden exclamation point highlights a moment of silent, heavy tension.
Logan looks down with a stern and unreadable expression.
Logan and Graham stand over the kneeling Ilya while Hilda remains confused by the dramatic scene.
Letting out an exhausted sigh, Logan brings a hand to his forehead in frustration.
Logan warns Hild and Ilya that it will be a problem if they continue to create noise in the mansion.
Logan instructs Graham to lead Ilya to the drawing room and promises to join them as soon as possible.
Ilya spreads his arms cheerfully and asks if the drawing room is necessary since everyone they need is already there.
A close-up of Logan's frown precedes Ilya's sudden compliance as the blue-haired man laughs and follows the butler.
Hilda tentatively asks Logan if there is any chance she can make an excuse for her behavior this time.
Logan remains silent as Hilda tries to explain that the insane guy suddenly showed up, her bare seat peeking out.
A sudden, loud scream for Logan rings out.
Lifting Hilde onto his shoulder, Logan announces he is throwing her out of the mansion as she frantically asks where they are going.
Hilda yells that Logan is lying as he carries her through the hallway.
Narrative text explains that Logan actually took her to Dorothy, who panics upon seeing the lady's bare, mud-stained feet.
In the drawing room, Ilya takes Hilda's hand and gallantly kisses it while she sits on the sofa.
Ilya introduces himself as the third son of Count Rakan and expresses his honor at meeting Lady Hilda Arpeggio. Hilda admits she finds Ilya decent and introduces herself, though she nearly says she regrets the meeting before correcting herself.
A sudden, sharp ahem sounding as Logan clears his throat.
Logan explains that Sir Rakan has been sent to serve Hilde and take responsibility for her safety at the Duke's request.
Hilda skeptically wonders if she can trust him, while Ilya notes that his knighthood was bestowed upon him by His Majesty.
A chibi Hilda remains distrustful, but Logan states that receiving knighthood at 18 is a testament to Ilya's exceptional skill.
Logan trails off while speaking of swordsmanship, prompting a chibi Hilde to demand why he is mumbling the end of his sentence.
Logan notes it is truly fortunate that His Grace is not currently present in the mansion.
Logan shakes his head as he considers the consequences if the Duke had witnessed the earlier chaos.
Chibi Logan and Hilda agree that the Duke will likely find out because the mansion has many eyes and ears.
Logan reflects on how it is impossible to erase the incident despite telling the servants to never mention it.
Chibi versions of Ilya and Hilda sit in an awkward silence.
Holding up a document, Logan demands that both Hilda and Ilya submit a 5-page reflection statement. Standing with his hands on his hips, Logan towers over the two as they both hold their papers in defeat.
A sudden, shocked cry breaks the silence as someone's hands touch on the table.
Hilda and Ilya scream in horror at the prospect of the reflection statement while Hilda calls out to Logan.
Ilya looks toward Logan and addresses him as Sir Strauss. A close-up reveals a focused and slightly wide-eyed case. A servant holds out a silver tray containing a single sealed letter. Graham presents letters from the Viscount and the Imperial family to Logan, who asks the butler to hand them over. Logan notes the letter from the Imperial family and assumes it concerns the Night Mansion Hilda requested from the Duke.
A memory bubble shows Hilda declaring her desire for the Night Mansion.
In the flashback, the white-haired Duke explains that the Night Mansion is currently owned by the Imperial family. Hilda suggests that if the Duke offers to buy it, he could acquire it cheaply since it's a burden to the crown. Logan wonders how the Imperial family will react to such a bold proposal from a young lady who just joined a noble family. Graham confirms he told the servants to be quiet about today's incident, but notes that Logan seems bothered by it. Graham laughs, causing Logan to sweat slightly and ask why the butler is laughing.
Graham observes that the normally calm Logan has been showing his anger and emotions more frequently lately.
Blushing slightly, Logan says he will be more careful in the future.
Graham smiles and insists that he did not mean his observation in a negative way.
Graham recalls that Logan was particularly quiet and mature as a child, which once made the butler worry he was too reserved. Logan looks at Hilda and notes that she appears much better now compared to their previous encounter. Graham calls out to Logan before formally excusing himself to leave the room. The blonde girl and the butler cross paths at the door as he makes his departure. Hilda looks down at a paper and identifies it as the reflection statement she must complete. Logan sits at his desk and asks if she has reflected on her actions, to which she replies that he will see the results once he reads her statement. Logan watches her with a calm and observant expression. Hilda asks what kind of person Ilya Rakan is as she envisions the blue-haired man's playful and eccentric nature. Logan bluntly describes the blue-haired man as a crazy person. Logan explains that many people share that particular evaluation of the new knight. Hilda is horrified, wondering if the Duke meant this as a punishment rather than an honor.
Hilda wonders why someone like Ilya would even want to serve as a knight for someone like her.
Logan explains that others rejected the role because they viewed Hilda as a rotten rope. Hilda repeats the insult while Logan remains quiet and thoughtful. Logan asks if the blue-haired man was the one who actually used that term to describe her. Hilda looks at Logan and wonders if he is actually more upset about the insult than she is. Hilda and Ilya sit across from each other at a large table in the drawing room. Hilda internally gripes about being forced to write a reflection statement when she has never had to do so before. Hilda looks up and sharply declines an offer from the blue-haired man. Ilya boasts that he has been writing reflection statements since he was 4 and offers his own as a reference for her. Annoyed by his nonsense, Hilda turns down the offer and focuses back on her paper. Hilda demands to know why the blue-haired man behaved so strangely toward her in the garden.
Ilya laughs as Hilda recalls his earlier comments about her being as cute as a chipmunk.
Ilya admits he teased her because she was cute and feels validated in his decision to become her knight. Hilda asks Ilya if he is aware that her father is actually a commoner. Hilda tells him that if he was flirting without knowing her status, he knows the truth now. Hilda assumes the blue-haired man has absolutely nothing to gain by associating with her. Ilya muses that serving under the Duke is considered an honorable task for any knight. Narrative text describes the prestige of the Arpeggio name and how many knights desire that kind of power. Ilya explains that as the third son of a count, he is the one who has chosen to be there. Hilda clutches her dress, believing no one applied to be her knight because she is only half noble. Hilda thinks others viewed her as a rotten rope, but Ilya suddenly calls out her name. Ilya looks at her seriously and explains that he came to the mansion knowing everything about her.
Hilda's purple eyes widen in shock at his unexpected declaration.
Hilda is left wondering why he would stay despite knowing her background.
The two sit in silence at the table as the scene pulls back.
Logan asks if Lord Rakan was the one who used that specific insult.
Logan asks if Ilya called her a rotten rope, but Hilde clarifies that she was referring to the likely opinion of other knights.
Logan brings a hand to his forehead as he processes the situation.
Hilda remains confused about why Ilya applied for the position when he has nothing to gain from her.
Hilda recalls that Ilya's family is wealthy and connected to the imperial family through his sister's marriage.
A sudden, cheerful whoa sounding as Hilda remembers that Ilya is the third son of a family with no succession disputes.
Hilda gasps in shock as she realizes the truth about Ilya's background.
Hilda envies Ilya's prestigious and free life, wishing she could also avoid Logan's constant nagging.
Logan lets out an exhausted sigh, noting he can easily read her thoughts just by looking at her face.
Hilda tells Logan that she still finds the blue-haired man incredibly suspicious. Hilda smiles sadly, suggesting her suspicion comes from having many enemies.
Logan notes Ilya's talent in early knighthood, but Hilda asks why he isn't currently with the imperial family. Logan explains that Ilya finds it difficult to adapt to collective environments and was likely pushed out.
Hilda is stunned to realize Ilya decided to become her knight simply because he thought it would be fun.
Logan wonders if that gave her any assurance and decides he must keep a closer eye on the blue-haired knight. Hilda reflects that if Logan's assessment is correct, her new knight is completely insane.
The blue-haired man smiles broadly while holding a sheet of paper as the blonde girl watches him.
Hilda thinks that if she can adapt to his peculiar madness, they might eventually find common ground. In the garden, Ilya asks if she wants to learn swordsmanship, and she firmly agrees.
Standing amidst flowers, Hilda declares that her goal is to gain the strength to protect herself.
A memory of a carriage appears as Ilya asks if a past robbery motivated her, but she internally corrects him that it was an assassination attempt.
Rubbing his chin, Ilya admits he was concerned she might not have faith in his martial abilities.
Hilda assures him that she trusts his skills despite never seeing them, leaving the knight visibly touched.
Watching through a window, Logan remains a point of reference as Hilda notes his word is enough to confirm Ilya's talent.
Hilda affirms her unwavering trust in Logan's judgment.
The blonde girl offers a soft, determined smile.
Holding a sheathed dagger, Ilya challenges her to attempt to stab him with the intent to kill.
Gripping the weapon, Hilda reasons that he will be safe since she is leaving the blade in its scabbard.
As Ilya encourages her to begin, Hilda wonders if his playfulness means he doesn't consider her a serious opponent.
Her focus shifts to the grass as a sudden quick thud sounding from her brit.
With a determined shout, Hilde lunges forward to strike at her new teacher. A sharp, sudden grunt sounding as the blue-haired knight effortlessly avoids her initial attack.
Shocked by his reflexes, Hilda realizes how incredibly fast the knight is as she prepares her next move. A sudden, loud ha sounding as Hilda swings the sheathed dagger with all her might.
Ilya moves with supernatural speed, appearing as a blur as he evades her consecutive strikes in the garden.
Hilde lets out a sharp, sudden humph sounding in annoyance. A sudden quick thud sounding as she misses another strike while Ilya leaps back.
A look of genuine surprise and intrigue crosses Ilya's face as he observes her persistence.
A sudden, loud ha sounding as Ilya drops to one knee to avoid her wide swing. A sharp, sudden slap sounding as Ilya strikes her hand away, causing her to cry out in pain. A sudden, hollow thud sounding as the dagger slips from her fingers and hits the grass. A sudden, sliding sound as Ilya's boot quickly pins the dropped weapon to the ground. Spinning the dagger with ease, Ilya asks if she witnessed his retrieval. Hilda is stunned by the sheer speed with which the knight reclaimed the weapon. Ilya praises her fearless attitude and admits she possesses more strength than he initially anticipated. Standing confidently, Ilya predicts that she will master self-defense within a mere 2 months.
Hilda stares at the knight in silent disbelief at his high praise. A sudden, firm grab sounding as Hilda seizes Ilya's hands and declares him her teacher.
Excitedly holding his hands, Hilda accepts the knight as her mentor while he looks on with a steady gaze. Looking at the knight, she feels a spark of hope that they will work well together in the future.
Ilya reiterates that she has exceeded his expectations and shows significant promise.
Back in the study, Hilda tells Logan that Ilya is actually a refined person, prompting Logan to note her quick change of heart. Logan stares blankly as the blonde girl teasingly asks if he is feeling jealous of the new knight. Smiling brightly, Hilda mentions that Ilya complimented her stance and predicted rapid improvement.
Logan dryly remarks that he was unaware Ilya possessed the power of clairvoyance.
Hilda suggests she is more naturally suited for physical combat and invites Logan to watch her class, but he flatly refuses.
Logan presents a heavy stock of books, noting her paperwork has hindered her exercise, while adding that Ilya challenged him to a duel.
Logan observes with a serious expression that Hilda is speaking of the knight with surprising affection.
Hilda dismisses the idea of gossip, pointing out that she also addresses Logan by his first name.
Logan explains that his situation is unique because his allegiance to the Duke is public knowledge, leaving Hilda baffled. Growing frustrated, Hilda shouts that her way of addressing him isn't based on viewing him merely as a subordinate.
Logan warns her not to cross boundaries and cautions that the blue-haired knight is prone to overstepping, while Hilda insists she did nothing scandalous.
A sudden, repetitive tap sounding as a dog's paw hits the wooden table to get their attention. The black and white dog yawns and demands to know if they intend to study or just continue bickering.
As the chibi pair begrudgingly returns to their work, Hilda mentions she is refining her magic chants, while Logan focuses on his writing.
The black and white dog announces they will learn about decoding runes and asks when they should be used.
The animal tutor explains runes can modify spells, nullify opponents' attacks, and speed up understanding of new magic. Hilda thinks she understands the concepts of changing and countering spells as she considers the lesson.
Reacting with shock, Hilda is challenged by the dog to replace an erased portion of a runic sentence immediately.
A sudden, quiet sounding as Hilda focuses intensely on the runic board while the black-haired man watches.
Hilda asks if a particular approach would work as her hand glows while manipulating the magical script.
A sudden bright wah sounding as the dog's eyes glow with intense shock at her quick success.
The dog admits that while the phrase is unconventional, it's actually much friendlier and more polite than the original.
A sudden, loud ahem sounding as Hilda proudly tells Logan that she can succeed when she focuses.
Logan warns her not to become overconfident just because of her mana, leading Hilda to groan at his nagging.
Logan lectures the girl on the importance of humility, while Hilda looks visibly drained by his relentless criticism.
Picking up the dog, Hilda gripes that Logan never offers compliments or empathy and only knows how to nag.
Hilda wonders if their supposedly close bond is merely her own delusion since he is so hard on her.
Hilda internally panics, wondering what would happen if the black-haired man wasn't actually on her side.
Logan looks at her work and notes he doesn't understand why she is whining like a child.
A sudden, loud thud sounding as the blonde girl slams her fist onto the table in sheer frustration. Storming into the garden, Hilda shouts and asks if it would kill the moron to just compliment her once. The scene shifts to the bright, clear sky visible through the canopy of green trees. A sudden, boisterous poo-ha-ha sounding as Ilya laughs at her outburst, startling the girl who wonders how long he was there.
The blue-haired knight reminds her that he is her protector and will always stay nearby for her safety.
A sudden, quick tap sounding as Hilda feels embarrassed, realizing she failed to notice his presence.
Hilda worries that her new knight heard all the complaints she just made about her other mentor.
Ilya smilingly confirms he was in the room next door during her entire study session earlier that morning.
Ilya explains he relaxes his guard when she is with Sir Strauss, but asks if he should watch her more closely.
Desperate to avoid more supervision, Hilda frantically waves her hands and tells the knight that his current distance is fine.
Ilya asks if the person she called a moron is the same one she considers a nagging demon king. A sudden sharp gasp sounding as the girl hides her face and insists that the answer is a secret.
Ilya notes that Logan is indeed overly strict and seems like a man who doesn't even bleed.
Sitting beside her, Ilya notes that she has clearly accumulated a significant amount of stress because of her teacher. Hilda looks down and admits that while she is frustrated, she doesn't actually hate the black-haired man. Looking away, Hilda confesses that she simply doesn't want to see Logan's face for the rest of the day.
Hilda mentions her upcoming dance class and dreads hearing more criticism about her lack of rhythm.
Ilya offers a mischievous grin and suggests that she should simply ditch the lesson entirely.
A sudden, confused "huh?" sounding as Hilda wonders if a noble should even be using such language. Ilya stretches and tells her to skip the mirror lesson, pointing out that Logan isn't actually her superior. Hilda acknowledges the logic of his words, but remains visibly conflicted about the idea of rebelling. Ilya finds her small protest cute and suggests Logan needs time to realize his methods are unfair. Hilda worries that hiding within the mansion would be pointless since Logan would find her immediately. Hilda considers the alternative, thinking that maybe she should just leave the mansion for a while. A sudden, quick thud sounding as Hilda kicks the grass and decides she has the right to go on an outing. A sudden, quick chirp sounding as a small sparrow sits on a branch while Hilda calls out to her knight.
Turning back to Ilya, Hilda asks if he is willing to escort her on her sudden excursion.
A sudden, quick chirp sounding as Ilya lets the bird perch on his finger and confirms his duty as her knight. A sudden sliding sound as the blue-haired knight releases the sparrow into the sky. Hilda watches the bird fly away as the knight prepares to follow her lead. Looking determined, the blonde girl asks if they should depart on their secret outing. Ilya shrugs and agrees, seemingly unconcerned about the potential fallout from their decision. A sudden firm grab sounding as Hilda seizes Ilya's hand to hurry him along. The knight laughs as the girl pulls him through the garden toward the mansion's exit. Inside the building, Logan is informed that Hilda has gone on an outing, leaving him utterly speechless. Logan looks deeply troubled by the news he has just received. The maid explains that the young lady left with Sir Rakan an hour ago and requested that her departure be kept a secret. A cold sweat breaks out on Logan's face as he questions if the news of her safety is actually a relief. The maid admits that Hilda did not specify her destination before leaving.
Logan demands to know her reason for leaving, but the maid confirms she was not given that information either.
Logan concludes that Hilda likely ran away just to spite him and requests to be notified immediately upon her return.
A sudden hollow thud sounding as Logan walks away from the maid with a heavy heart. Logan reflects on how he has always used meticulous planning and foresight as his primary tools in life. Thinking of the blonde girl, Logan realizes he never expected to meet someone so entirely unpredictable.
He begins to wonder if he is the one being swayed by Hilda's actions rather than the other way around.
A sudden sliding sound as a door opens to reveal another part of the mansion's interior.
Logan turns his attention to a woman in a dark, elegant dress who has entered the room.
Madame Tarina notes his poor complexion and advises him to prioritize his own health over his relentless work.
Logan acknowledges her advice, but the woman questions why he allowed the young lady to go on an outing without him.
A sudden, firm squeeze sounding as Logan realizes even the madam was informed of the outing while he was left in the dark.
Madame Tarina confirms that Sir Rakan, the knight chosen by the Duke, is the one escorting the girl today.
The woman explains that Hilde personally made the request for the knight's company to the Duke.
Logan asks which member of the Rakan family accepted the task, wondering if it was their youngest son.
Madame Tarina confirms it was the third son, Ilya, and playfully notes that this situation must be difficult for Logan. She explains that while Ilya has an eccentric personality and ignores orders, his skill with a sword is trustworthy. Logan looks away, worrying that the girl might face another bandit attack during her excursion. The man stares blankly into the distance, considering the even darker possibility of an assassination attempt. A sudden, wicked grin sounding as Madame Tarina watches the man's growing concern. Madame Tarina suggests that Logan is only this frightened because of the previous attack that happened to the girl. Logan thinks to himself that worrying about an assassination on someone so harmless seems completely irrational.
He remains lost in thought as he considers the true nature of the knight, Ilya Rakan. Madame Tarina remarks that the knight and the young lady are a fitting pair, leaving Logan visibly bewildered.
She explains that both are free spirits who disregard noble rules and that Hilde likely needed someone with Ilya's temperament. Logan stands in silence as the woman's words continue to unsettle him. A formal document explains that the Rakan family has the social standing required to marry into the arpeggio line.
Logan envisions a wedding and realizes that marrying Ilya would grant Hilde a peaceful life while removing her from the succession struggle.
Logan looks genuinely distressed as he wonders why the idea of her happiness makes him feel so upset.
A sudden, repetitive click sounding as the clock marks the passing hours in the silent study.
An open book and a stack of paperwork sit neglected on the desk.
Logan rests his head on his hands and admits that he is completely unable to concentrate on his work.
He recalls Hilda's furious face as she shouted that he had failed as her educator.
Logan clutches his forehead, realizing that the source of all his current stress is rooted in his relationship with Hilde.
A sudden, quick scratch sounding as the black and white dog sits on the desk and observes the man's misery. A sudden, loud yawn sounding as the dog tutor asks how long Logan has been Mopair.
The dog asks if Logan is truly ignorant or just pretending not to understand what the girl actually wants from him.
The animal tutor suggests that a simple, offhand compliment would be enough to appease the girl. Logan argues that compliments only serve to make people lazy and satisfied with their current position.
A sudden, quick tap sounding as the dog hits Logan's face and tells him to simply acknowledge her hard work.
The dog reminds the man that he once sought compliments himself and asks if any human truly dislikes receiving them.
Logan is left speechless by the dog's blunt and accurate assessment. A sudden leap sounding as the dog jumps off the desk chair. A sudden, quick pitter-patter sounding as the dog complains that talking to Logan is as productive as talking to a wall.
A sudden, sliding sound as the dog leaves the room while quipping that Logan wouldn't even taste good.
Standing alone at his desk, Logan stares down at the tactical map markers in silence. Logan admits his error, realizing his arrogance led him to suppress the girl he was supposed to be guiding.
The vibrant sounds of a bustling marketplace ring out as the local townspeople go about their daily lives. Ilya asks what their first objective should be, and Hilda decides they need to find a way to earn some money. The blue-haired knight looks deeply concerned as he wonders if Hilda's family is secretly struggling with financial debt.
As Hilda admires a display of luxury items, Ilya kindly offers to buy whichever one she wants.
Ilya reveals a handful of gold coins to prove he can pay, but Hilda refuses to use money that doesn't belong to her.
While Ilya is touched by her supposed worry for his family's wealth, Hilda explains that nothing in this world is ever truly free.
She recalls a bitter memory of being framed for a crime by a man who gave her unwanted gifts, a logic Ilya finds completely absurd.
Still curious about her plan, the knight asks the girl exactly how she intends to acquire her own funds.
With a sharp and determined gesture, the blonde girl points out her target in the middle of the street.
Ilya looks on with a skeptical and guarded expression as he tries to understand the direction she is pointing.
They stop before a street gambler's cup game where Hilda questions if the knight actually knows the trick behind it.
Ilya panics and warns her that such games are nothing but a fraud, though Hilde seems entirely unbothered by the risk.
A nervous laugh escapes the knight as he reflects on his own shameful history of losing money to similar scams.
Hilda looks radiant and confident as she prepares to navigate the chaotic energy of the marketplace.